Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Nightmare Narratives. I am your storyteller, and I'm here to guide you tonight. I know many of you use these videos to drift off to sleep, so before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm always curious. Where are you watching from and what time is it in your part of the world? Now find your cozy spot and relax. My name is Thomas Hartley. I'm a park ranger at Baxter State Park in Maine, and I've been one for almost 15 years now. The trees and mountains have been better friends to me than most people, especially lately. I grip the steering wheel, tighter as my old truck winds through roads lined with maple trees. Their leaves are bright red and orange, like the whole forest is on fire. October in Maine is something special. Most days, I'd slow down and take it all in, but today I can't focus on the trees. Today is about Emma. It's been 3 months since I've seen my little girl. The divorce has been hard on all of us, but hardest on her. She's only 8 years old. No kid should have to choose between parents, but that's what the courts are making her do. Lisa got temporary custody, and I've been fighting to get more time with Emma ever since. This weekend could change everything. If it goes well, my lawyer thinks the judge might grant me joint custody. If not, I push the thought away. I can't think about that now. I turn onto the gravel road leading to Lisa's cabin. She inherited it from her parents last year, right before things between us fell apart for good. I've never actually been here before. It sits beside a lake I've heard is good for fishing, surrounded by more of those fiery maple trees. As I pull up, the cabin door flies open. Emma bursts out, her brown pigtails bouncing, her smile showing that new gap where her front tooth used to be. "Daddy!" she screams, running toward my truck before I can even turn off the engine. I jump out and scoop her up, spinning her around like I always do. Her laughter is the best sound in the world. "I missed you so much, Squirt," I say, setting her down but not letting go. "I missed you too. Mom says we can go hiking and make s'mores and tell ghost stories because it's almost Halloween." Over her shoulder, I see Lisa standing in the doorway. I brace myself for the cold shoulder, the tight smile, the barely hidden anger that's become our normal. But instead she waves and actually smiles, a real smile. "Come on in, Tom," she calls out. "You must be hungry after that drive." Emma grabs my hand and pulls me toward the cabin. "Mom made your favorite sandwiches, and she said you can stay for dinner too." Inside, the cabin is warm and cozy. A fire crackles in the stone fireplace, and the place smells like fresh bread and coffee. Lisa hands me a sandwich and a mug without the usual tension between us. "How have you been, Tom?" she asks, and she sounds like she actually wants to know. We sit at the small wooden table while Emma chatters about school and her new friends. For the first time in 2 years, we're not fighting. We're just listening to our daughter, laughing at her stories about the super scary ghost in her friend's basement that turned out to be a cat. After lunch, Lisa surprises me again. "I was thinking we could all go hiking tomorrow like we used to. There's a beautiful trail around the lake." "Really?" I ask, not sure I heard her right. "Emma would love it," she says, and then more softly, "It would be nice, wouldn't it, to do something as a family again." Something tight in my chest loosens a little. Hope. That's what this feeling is. I'd almost forgotten it. After dinner, we all pile onto the couch to watch a Halloween movie that's not too scary for Emma. She falls asleep between us before it's over, her head on my shoulder, her feet on Lisa's lap. Just like old times. I look across at Lisa in the blue light of the TV. She catches my eye and smiles. "She's missed you," she whispers. "I've missed both of you," I admit. For one perfect moment, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, our broken family might find a way to heal. I wake up early the next morning, sunlight streaming through the cabin windows. For a second, I forget where I am. Then I remember I'm at Lisa's cabin with Emma, and somehow things are good between us again. I stretch and head to the kitchen, where Lisa is already making pancakes. She's humming something under her breath. "Morning," I say, pouring myself coffee. She turns and smiles. "Sleep well?" "Better than I have in months." She laughs, and I pause, coffee mug halfway to my lips. Her laugh sounds off somehow. It's Lisa's laugh, with the little hiccup at the end that always made me smile, but it's slightly higher than I remember, like someone doing a really good impression of her. "What?" she asks, catching me staring. "Nothing," I say quickly, "just happy to be here." Emma bounces into the kitchen in her pajamas, hair wild from sleep. While she eats, she hums the same tune Lisa was humming. "That's a pretty song," I say. "Where'd you learn it?" Emma shrugs. "I don't know. I just know it." "We heard it on the radio," Lisa says at the same time. I frown. It's not a song I recognize, and I listen to the radio all day in my Ranger truck. After breakfast, I wander into the living room while Lisa and Emma get dressed for our hike. The mantel above the fireplace is lined with family photos. I pick one up. It shows the three of us on a beach, squinting in bright sunlight, ice cream cones melting in our hands. I don't remember this trip. I turn the frame over looking for a date, but there's nothing. "Ready to go?" Lisa calls, startling me. I put the photo back quickly. "Yeah, just looking at pictures." "Oh, from our trip to Bar Harbor last summer," she says, coming over. "That was such a fun weekend." I nod slowly. We never went to Bar Harbor together. By last summer, we were already separated. The hike starts out perfect. The trail loops around the lake, winding through trees bursting with fall colors. Emma runs ahead, collecting bright leaves and pointing out chipmunks. Lisa walks close to me, our hands brushing occasionally. "I've been thinking," she says, "about us, about how things went wrong." "Me too," I admit, "every day." "Remember that night we stayed up talking until sunrise, when we decided we should try again?" I don't remember this conversation. We never talked about trying again after the separation. But before I can say anything, Emma calls for us to look at a frog she's found. Back at the cabin, Lisa says she'll make my favorite dinner, grilled trout with lemon. I stand in the doorway of the kitchen, confused. "But you hate cooking fish," I say. "You always said the smell made you sick." She doesn't miss a beat. "I got over that. I know how much you love it." While Lisa cooks, I help Emma with her Halloween costume. She wants to be a ghost. As I cut eye holes in an old sheet, I notice drawings taped to the wall of her room. Crayon pictures of our family. Except there are 4 figures in the drawings, not 3. Me, Lisa, Emma, and someone else. A tall, dark figure with no face. "Who's this, Squirt?" I ask, pointing. Emma glances up from her coloring book. "That's my friend. He lives in the lake." A chill runs down my spine. "The lake?" She nods, completely serious. "He comes out at night sometimes. That night I can't sleep. The couch is comfortable enough, but something feels wrong. The cabin creaks and settles in the dark. I get up for a glass of water and notice the phone on the wall. I should call my lawyer, let him know things are going well with Emma. The line is dead, just static. In the morning, I mention it to Lisa. "That's weird," she says, frowning. "It was working fine yesterday." I head to the closet to get my jacket for another walk. There, hanging next to Lisa's coats, is my old green jacket, the one I thought was in my apartment 50 miles away. "Lisa?" I call out. "Why is my jacket here?" "You left it last time you visited," she says from the kitchen. "But I've never been to this cabin before. Never." That night I wake to the sound of the front door opening. I bolt upright on the couch. Emma's small figure is silhouetted in the doorway, walking out into the dark. I follow her outside. The night is freezing cold, the moon reflecting on the still lake. Emma walks straight into the water, not stopping when it reaches her knees. "Emma," I shout, splashing in after her. The water is ice cold. I grab her shoulders, turning her around. Her eyes are open but empty, like she's sleepwalking. "Daddy?" She blinks awake, confused. "Why don't you live with us anymore? Mother says." "It's because you don't love us enough to believe in us." I stare at her, shocked. Those aren't words my 8-year-old would use. And she's never called Lisa mother, always mom or mommy. I carry her back to the cabin, water dripping. From our clothes, a knot of fear growing in my stomach. Something is very, very wrong here. I don't sleep the rest of the night. I sit in the living room chair, watching Emma's bedroom door, listening to every creak and groan of the cabin. When morning light finally streams through the windows, I'm still sitting there, my eyes burning from being open too long. Lisa comes out of her room first, humming that strange tune again. "You're up early," she says, heading to the kitchen. "Coffee?" Before I can answer, my cell phone rings. I didn't even know I had service up here. The caller ID shows my lawyer's name. I step outside to take the call. "Tom?" My lawyer's voice sounds strange, like he's been crying. "Where are you?" "At Lisa's cabin with Emma," I say. "What's wrong?" There's a long pause. "Tom, there's been an accident." The world seems to tilt sideways. I grab the porch railing to steady myself. "What kind of accident?" My voice doesn't sound like my own. "Lisa was driving Emma home from school 3 days ago. A truck hit their car at an intersection." He stops, then forces himself to continue. "Emma didn't make it, Tom. The funeral was yesterday." I can't breathe, can't speak. "Lisa's in the hospital. She hasn't spoken since it happened. We've been trying to reach you." Through the cabin window, I can see Emma sitting at the kitchen table, spooning cereal into her mouth. The spoon scrapes against the bowl with that squeaky sound that always makes her giggle. "That's impossible," I whisper. "Emma's right here. I'm looking at her right now." "Tom, listen to me. You need to come back. You're in shock." I hang up. My hands are shaking so badly, I drop the phone. It clatters on the wooden porch. Inside, Emma looks up as I enter. "Can you push me on the swing today, Daddy?" Her gap-toothed smile, the way she tucks her hair behind her ears, the freckle just below her right eye. Everything about her is exactly right, exactly Emma. "Sure, Squirt," I manage to say. "After breakfast." The bedroom door opens and Lisa comes out, wearing the blue robe I gave her 2 Christmases ago. But something's wrong with her smile. It's too wide, stretching just a bit farther than a human mouth should. "Who was on the phone?" she asks. "Wrong number," I lie. We eat breakfast together. I can't stop staring at them, at every movement, every gesture. Emma slurps her milk just like always. Lisa tucks her left foot under her right thigh, just like she always sits. Everything is perfect, too perfect. After breakfast, I follow them outside to the swing I hung yesterday from a large maple tree. The air feels different today, colder, heavier. The lake, so beautiful yesterday, now seems dark and threatening. As I push Emma on the swing, I notice the lake starting to change. A low humming sound rises from the water, making my teeth ache. At first I think I'm imagining it, but then I see Emma cock her head like she hears it too. "What's that sound?" I ask. "The lake is singing," Emma says simply, pumping her legs to go higher. I look out at the water and freeze. Dead fish are floating to the surface, dozens of them, their white bellies turned up to the sky. But their eyes aren't fish eyes anymore. They're perfect black spheres like marbles. "Lisa," I call, my voice shaking. "You need to see this." She walks over, standing too close to me. I can smell her perfume, the same one she's worn for years. "See what?" she asks, staring right at the dead fish. "The fish in the lake." She smiles that too wide smile again. "It's just a lake, Tom. A beautiful, normal lake. The temperature, drops suddenly, like someone opened a freezer door. My breath comes out in white puffs. Neither Lisa nor Emma seem to notice, though Emma's wearing only a t-shirt and shorts. "Aren't you cold?" I ask her. She keeps swinging. "Nope." I walk closer to the lake's edge, drawn by the humming sound. In the water, I catch Emma's reflection, but it's not right. Instead of showing my daughter on the swing behind me, the reflection shows something else. A writhing mass of dark tentacles shaped roughly like a little girl. I stumble backward, falling onto the rocky shore. "Tom," Lisa calls, "are you okay?" I turn to look at her, at the thing wearing my ex-wife's face. "Who are you?" I whisper. "What are you?" Her head tilts at an impossible angle. "I'm Lisa, your wife, the mother of your child." Her voice drops lower with each word. "The woman you abandoned." Emma stops swinging and stands perfectly still, watching me with unblinking eyes. "You're not my daughter," I say, my voice breaking. "My daughter is dead." Emma's face doesn't change, but tears begin running down her cheeks. "Why would you say that, Daddy? I'm right here." The humming from the lake grows louder, vibrating through my bones now. The world around us seems to shimmer, like I'm looking through heat waves on a summer road. "What do you want from me?" I shout over the noise. Lisa and Emma speak in perfect unison, their voices blending into one. "We want you to believe in us." I run back to the cabin, slamming and locking the door behind me. My heart pounds in my chest like it's trying to escape. Through the window, I see Lisa and Emma standing by the lake, watching the cabin. They don't move. They don't even blink. I grab my phone to call for help, but there's no signal now. Of course there isn't. I sink into a chair, trying to make sense of what's happening. My daughter is dead. My ex-wife is in a hospital, so who or what are those things outside? The front door opens even though I locked it. Lisa steps inside, smiling that wrong smile. Emma follows, skipping like nothing is strange. "Running away, Tom?" Lisa asks. Her voice sounds normal, but there's something underneath it now, a wet, bubbling sound. "That's what you do best, isn't it?" "What are you?" I ask again, backing away until I hit the wall. Lisa sits down across from me, hands folded neatly. In her lap, too neatly, like someone copying what they think human gestures should look like. "We are what you need us to be," she says. "We feed on connection, on love, on grief. The stronger the emotion, the stronger we become." Emma climbs onto the couch, hugging a teddy bear I bought her last Christmas. Every detail is perfect. The worn spot on its left ear, the stitches where I sewed its arm back on. "You're some kind of mimic?" I whisper. Lisa nods, looking pleased. "We study, we learn, we become. Your family was perfect for us. So much love, so much pain between you. So you killed them." My voice breaks. "You killed my little girl." Emma looks up. "I'm right here, Daddy." Her voice is exactly like my daughter's. Exactly. "No," Lisa says, shaking her head. "We didn't kill them. We simply used what was already gone." A terrible understanding washes over me. "The car crash, you caused it." Lisa tilts her head, considering. "I was already there, inside her, watching, learning. She was so sad about you, Tom. So broken. It made her careless behind the wheel. I feel sick. So you're wearing them like costumes?" "More than costumes," Emma pipes up. "We're better than they ever were. I'll never grow up and leave you. Mommy will never get angry again." I look around the cabin, really seeing it for the first time. The walls are lined with photos, but not just of my family. There are others, different families, different faces, all smiling the same empty smile. "How many?" I ask, my voice barely audible. "How many families have you taken?" Lisa stands and walks to the mantel. She touches each photo lovingly. "So many. They all chose to stay in the end. They all chose comfort over truth." "What do you mean, chose to stay?" The ones who believe in us, who accept us, get to keep us, Emma says, like she's explaining the rules of a game. We can be their perfect family forever. And the ones who don't. Lisa's smile widens again, too far, impossibly far. They feed us in other ways. I look at the thing wearing my daughter's face. It's studying me, head tilted like a curious bird. I can feel how much you love her, it says in Emma's voice, how much you miss her, how you blame yourself for not being there when the crash happened. Stop it, I whisper. We know everything about you, Tom, Lisa says. We've been watching you for months, learning what you want most, what you regret most. She walks toward me, her movements too smooth, like she's gliding rather than walking. You wanted your family back. You wanted a second chance. We're giving you that chance. Emma holds up her teddy bear. You can stay with us forever, Daddy. We'll be so happy. I back away until I hit the fireplace. My hand closes around the poker without thinking. You're not my family, I say, my voice stronger now. My family is gone. Are we? Lisa asks. Look at us, Tom. Really look. Every memory, every habit, every little detail, we have it all. We are them now. Better versions. Versions that will never leave you. And the terrible thing is, she's right. Everything about them is perfect. The way Emma's nose crinkles when she laughs. The tiny scar on Lisa's wrist from when she fell off her bike as a kid. All the little things that made them who they were. How? I ask. How do you know all this? Lisa taps her temple. We have their memories, their thoughts, their feelings. She leans closer, her breath cold on my face. I know Lisa still loved you, Tom, even after everything. Her last thought was your name. Emma slides off the couch and walks to me, taking my hand. Her small fingers feel exactly right in mine. Don't you want us to be a family again, Daddy? She asks. Don't you love us enough to believe? Emma's hand feels warm in mine, too warm, like she's running a fever. Her big brown eyes look up at me, filled with tears and hope and something else, something hungry. I miss you so much when you're not here, she says. Please stay, Daddy. Please believe in us. Lisa moves closer, her hand touching my cheek. We can give you what you've always wanted, Tom. Your family back. No more lonely nights in that empty apartment. No more weekends without Emma's laughter. For a moment I almost believe, almost let myself fall into this perfect illusion they've created. Because that's what it is. Perfect in every detail. What happens if I stay? I ask, my voice rough with emotion. Lisa smiles. We live here together, happy, forever. She strokes my hair like she used to when we were first married. You'll never have to face the truth, never have to live with the pain. Other fathers have chosen us, Emma adds. They're happy now. Show me, I say. Lisa nods and takes my hand. She leads me to the window facing the lake. As I watch, the surface of the water ripples and changes, like a TV screen turning on. I see images of other families, other cabins just like this one. Men who look like me, sad, broken, desperate for connection. They're smiling, playing with children who move a little too stiffly, hugging wives whose smiles stretch a little too wide. They chose comfort, Lisa whispers. They chose us. What happens to them eventually? They feed us, she says simply. Their belief, their love, their acceptance nourishes us, and in return, they never have to face the pain of their real lives. It's a fair trade. Emma tugs at my hand. I want to show you something, Daddy. She leads me to her bedroom. On the bed lies her favorite stuffed rabbit, the one she couldn't sleep without since she was 3. She picks it up and holds it out to me. Remember when you sewed his ear back on after Rusty chewed it? She asks. I take the rabbit, running my thumb over the clumsy stitches I'd made while Emma watched, explaining that even stuffed rabbits needed doctors sometimes. How can you know this? I whisper. Because I'm Emma, she says, so confident, so sure. Just better. I'll never grow up and leave you. I'll always be your little girl. I sit on the edge of the bed, still holding the rabbit. Lisa kneels in front of me, taking my free hand. I know we hurt you, she says softly. The real us, the divorce, the custody battle. We caused you so much pain. Let us make it up to you now. My throat tightens. Did she really say my name? At the end, Lisa nods, her eyes filling with tears that look so real. She did. She was thinking of you, wishing you were there. And Emma, my voice breaks. Was she scared? No, Lisa says gently. It was quick. She didn't suffer. I clutch the rabbit tighter. Part of me wants to believe, wants to stay in this perfect world they've created, where my family is whole again, where I get a second chance. Emma climbs into my lap, just like she's done 1,000 times before. She feels exactly right, the weight of her, the way she tucks her head under my chin. Please stay, Daddy, she whispers. I'm scared without you. Lisa sits beside us, her arm around my shoulders. For one moment we're a family again, just like I've dreamed about every night since the divorce. But then I feel it, the wrongness underneath. Emma's skin is too warm, Lisa's touch is too cold, and the humming from the lake grows louder, vibrating through the cabin walls. You're not them, I say, my voice breaking. You're just wearing their faces, using their memories. Does it matter? Lisa asks. We can give you what you want most in the world. I want my real family. They're gone, Tom, she says, suddenly harsh. Dead and buried. We're all you have left now. I look down at Emma, at the thing pretending to be Emma. She stares back, her expression changing from sad to something else, something older, hungrier. You have to choose, Daddy, she says, her voice no longer quite a child's. Us or nothing. I gently move her off my lap and stand up. I choose the truth. Lisa's face twists with anger. The truth will destroy you. Maybe, I say, but it's still the truth. I walk to the kitchen, aware of them following me. The matches are where they always were in our old house. Top, drawer next to the sink. I strike one, watching the flame leap to life. What are you doing? Lisa asks, her voice now layered with other sounds, clicks and hisses. Ending this, I say. Emma, the thing that isn't Emma, backs away. Please. Don't, Daddy, I love you. My Emma is gone, I say, tears streaming down my face, and I need to let her rest. I drop the match onto the pile of dish towels on the counter. They catch immediately, flames spreading faster than they should. You can't leave us, Lisa shrieks, her voice changing, deepening. We need you to believe. I back toward the door. As the fire grows, spreading to the curtains, the wooden cabinets. Show me what you really are, I demand. At least give me that much truth. For a moment nothing happens, then Emma's skin begins to ripple and shift. Her eyes sink deeper into her face, her fingers lengthen into something like claws. Lisa's jaw extends, her teeth multiplying, becoming sharp and numerous. What I see isn't my family anymore. It's rotting flesh moved by something else, something ancient and hungry that's been hiding beneath the lake for who knows how long. You could have had them forever, the thing that was Lisa hisses. Now you'll have nothing. I already lost them, I say, reaching for the door. But at least I won't dishonor their memory by pretending. The fire roars now, consuming the cabin. The creatures don't try to escape. They stand in the flames, their borrowed bodies burning, revealing glimpses of what lies beneath, twisted, inhuman shapes. As I back out the door, Emma's voice, still perfectly my daughter's, calls after me. Daddy, don't leave me! It takes everything I have to keep walking, to get in my truck, to drive away while flames consume the cabin behind me. In my rearview mirror, I watch black smoke rising above the trees. The humming from the lake finally stops. The funeral is on a Tuesday. It rains, turning the cemetery into mud. I stand between two small graves, alone except for a few distant relatives and Emma's teacher. Lisa's parents don't speak to me. They blame me for not being there when it happened. Sometimes I blame myself too. I place a stuffed rabbit on Emma's grave, an exact copy of the one that burned in the cabin. I found it at a toy store in Portland. As I drive away from the cemetery, I pass a family walking hand in hand, father, mother, little girl. They're laughing about something, looking perfectly happy, perfectly normal. I find myself wondering if they're real. I wonder if anyone is. That's the real curse of what happened at the lake. Not just losing my family, but losing my trust in what's real. Every happy family I see makes me question if they're genuine or if they're just another mimic's creation. But I've made my choice. Truth over comfort, reality over beautiful lies. Some days I'm not sure it was the right choice, but it was the only one I could live with. My name is Thomas Hartley, and I chose the brutal truth over a beautiful lie. Now I have to learn to live with it. My name is Maria Santos. I'm 38 years old, and I work as a forest ranger in Olympic National Forest, Washington. Before this, I was an engineer at NASA, but I traded in my lab coat for hiking boots 3 years ago. I wanted to be closer to nature, to breathe fresh air instead of recycled oxygen in sterile rooms. Funny how life works out. I left science to find peace, but science followed me here in the worst way possible. It all started with what everyone called bear attacks. 3 hikers found dead in the north section of the forest in just 2 weeks. My boss, Ranger Thompson, asked me to check out the latest scene since I was closest to that area. When I got there, something felt wrong right away. The cuts on the victim's body were too clean, too precise. I've seen what bears do to people. It's messy, chaotic. These wounds looked almost surgical, like someone used tools, not claws. I took photos and collected samples, things we don't usually do for animal attacks. My science background kicked in. Later that night, looking at the photos, I noticed something else strange. Some of the organs seemed to be missing, and the remaining tissue had weird cellular changes, almost like mutations. Before I could report my findings, black government SUVs showed up at the ranger station. Men in suits asked for all our files on the animal attacks. They said they were from the wildlife department, but their IDs looked military to me. The next morning, Ranger Thompson called me into his office. "Santos," he said, not looking me in the eye, "classify all these incidents as standard animal attacks. No need for further investigation." "But sir, the evidence doesn't—" "That's an order, Santos." His voice was firm, but I could tell he was scared. "Just do your job and nothing more." I nodded and left, but I couldn't let it go. That weekend, I hiked out to the restricted area where the attacks had happened. I found tire tracks that didn't belong to ranger vehicles, and they led deep into a part of the forest that was supposed to be untouched wilderness. After following the tracks for 3 hours, I saw it. A facility hidden in a valley, surrounded by electric fences with government property signs. This was no ordinary research station. It had satellite dishes, guards, and what looked like medical waste containers. I set up my own surveillance equipment, skills from my NASA days coming in handy. I watched the facility for 2 days, careful to stay hidden. They had cameras everywhere, but I knew how to avoid their detection patterns. On my way back, I met old Joseph, an elder from the local tribe. He was collecting herbs near the stream. "You shouldn't be here, Ranger," he said without looking up. "The hungry ghosts walk these woods now." "What hungry ghosts?" I asked. "The ones made by white man's science. Not animal, not human. Lost spirits trapped in bodies that don't belong to them." He finally looked at me, his eyes sad. "They hunger for what they've lost." I wanted to dismiss it as superstition, but after what I'd seen, I couldn't. The next day, I found a garbage dump half a mile from the facility. They tried to burn everything, but I managed to salvage some items. Medical waste containers with labels torn off, vials with dried blood, and notebooks with most pages ripped out. One container had human tissue samples mixed with something else. Animal DNA, maybe? I couldn't be sure without proper testing. That night, I borrowed some radio equipment from the station and listened in on the facility's communications. Most of it was routine, boring stuff, but then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Project Amalgam Specimen 7 has been terminated. Specimen 9 remains unaccounted for. All personnel on high alert. Project Amalgam. Human-animal. Hybrids. It sounded crazy, but it explained the surgical precision of the attacks, the missing organs, the mutations. What I didn't know yet was how personally this nightmare would touch me, or that I was already part of their plan. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those clean cuts on the hikers' bodies. I kept hearing Project Amalgam in my head over and over. I called my mom the next morning. I needed to hear a familiar voice. "Maria, have you heard from Miguel?" she asked before I could say much. My brother Miguel. We weren't super close anymore, but we used to be inseparable as kids. He had 2 children, Lisa, 8, and Carlos, 6, both born with the same muscle disease Miguel had. It made their muscles get weaker over time. "No, Mom. Why?" I asked, my stomach suddenly feeling tight. "He hasn't called in 3 months. Not like him, especially with the kids being sick. Miguel would never abandon his children, never. Even with the treatments costing so much money, he always found a way. He worked 3 jobs sometimes. I promised Mom I'd look into it. I had a day off, so I drove to the public library 2 towns over. I didn't want to use my home computer or phone for what I was about to do. I hacked into the military database, using tricks I learned at NASA. Took me hours, but I found a list of volunteers for a special program, and there was Miguel's name, Patient 9. The same number I heard on the radio. Specimen 9 remains unaccounted for. My hands were shaking, so bad I could hardly read. Miguel had signed up for some experimental treatment. The papers said it would cure his genetic disease. The government promised to pay for his kids' treatments too. I drove back to the forest in a daze. My own brother was part of this, but what had they done to him? The next morning I sneaked back near the facility. This time I went to a ridge that looked down on a fenced yard where they took patients outside for exercise. What I saw made me throw up. They weren't just people anymore. Some had strange limbs, weird skin, or moved in ways humans shouldn't be able to move. They looked in pain. Guards with big guns watched them closely. I couldn't see Miguel among them. Was he already dead? The radio had said, Specimen 9 remains unaccounted for. That meant he had escaped. Back at my cabin that night, I found a note slipped under my door. Just one line. The animals aren't killing anyone. The monsters wearing white coats are. R had to be Dr. Reeves. I remembered seeing that name on Miguel's paperwork. A lead scientist. I went back to the forest the next day, to the site of the most recent attack. Looking more carefully, I found scratch marks on trees that weren't animal claws. They were too regular, almost like someone trying to send a message. That's when I realized the victims weren't random hikers. I researched each one. All 3 worked at medical research places or military bases. One was even listed as part of Project Amalgam. Miguel wasn't just killing randomly, he was hunting the people who had hurt him. My phone rang, making me jump. It was my boss. Santos, we have visitors asking for you specifically. Military types. Say they need your engineering expertise for a special project. My blood went cold. How did they know about my background? Why me? When I got to the station, a tall man in a suit was waiting. He didn't smile when he held out his hand. Ms. Santos, I'm Dr. Reeves. We need your help tracking a dangerous escaped subject. Given your unique qualifications and personal connection, you're perfect for this assignment. That's when the horrible truth hit me. They didn't recruit me by accident. They knew all along. They knew Miguel would escape. They knew I worked here. They had planned this from the beginning. I was never here to protect the forest. I was here to help them catch my brother. I stood there looking at Dr. Reeves, trying to keep my face calm while my mind raced. He knew about Miguel. He knew about me, but he didn't know that I knew. "Why would I help you?" I asked, crossing my arms. "Because your brother is dangerous," Dr. Reeves said. "He's killed 3 people already." "You mean 3 of your scientists?" I said before I could stop myself. His eyes narrowed. "So you've been doing your homework, Ranger Santos?" "Yes, those people were connected to our project. But that doesn't give anyone the right to kill them." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Miguel out there somewhere, changed into something not fully human. I remembered how we used to tap messages to each other through the wall, between our bedrooms when we were kids. We made up our own code, short taps for dots, long taps for dashes, our own secret language. At sunrise, I went deep into the forest, to the places most people never go. I was looking for any sign of Miguel. After hours of searching, I found something strange, marks on a tree trunk. They weren't random. 3 short taps, 3 long taps, 3 short taps. SOS in our childhood code. My heart pounded. Miguel was alive. He was trying to contact me. I kept looking and found more trees with marks. They made a trail heading north. I followed them for miles until they stopped at a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. "Miguel," I called softly. "It's Maria." At first, nothing happened. Then I heard a sound from inside the cave, tap, tap, tap on stone. Our old code again. It spelled out danger. "I know about the project," I said. "I know what they did to you." A voice came from the darkness. It wasn't quite Miguel's voice anymore. It was deeper, rougher. "You shouldn't have come, Maria. I had to find you. You have to help me die," the voice said, "before I hurt more people. I can't control it much longer." I took a step closer. "Miguel, let me see you." "No!" The voice was sharper now, almost a growl. "I'm not me anymore. They mixed my DNA with wolf, bear, other things. I'm becoming something else." "The people you killed, they deserved it," Miguel said. "Dr. Wilson cut me open while I was still awake. Stevens injected me with chemicals that burned like fire. And Parker, she laughed when I begged them to stop." I felt sick. "Miguel, Dr. Reeves is here. He wants me to help track you." Reeves. The way Miguel said the name made my skin crawl. He was the worst. He's the one who picked me because my kids were sick. He knew I'd do anything to save them. A branch snapped somewhere behind me. Miguel went silent. "They followed you," he whispered. "Go, now." I ran back toward the ranger station, but I didn't make it. Dr. Reeves and 4 soldiers stopped me on the trail. "Did you find him?" Reeves asked. "No," I lied. "Don't lie to me, Ranger Santos." He smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. "We've been tracking your movements. We know you found his hiding place." One of the soldiers held up a tablet showing a map with a blinking dot. Me. They'd put a tracker on me somehow. "Why do you want him back so badly?" I asked. "He's just one escaped experiment." Reeves looked at me like I was a child who'd asked a stupid question. "Your brother is special. The changes worked better on him than anyone else. He's stronger, faster, and smarter than the others. And most importantly, he's still sane enough to be useful." "Useful for what?" "War, Miss Santos. The perfect soldier who can track enemies across any terrain, who can kill without weapons, who can survive conditions that would kill normal humans." "You're monsters," I said. "We're visionaries," Reeves corrected. "And you're going to help us, whether you want to or not." He explained that they'd been watching me for months. They specifically requested me to work in this forest because they knew Miguel would come looking for me when he escaped. I was bait in their trap. "And now," Reeves said, "you're going to lead us right to him." "I won't," I said. "You will." He held up his phone. On the screen was a video feed of my mom's house. A man in black stood near her front door. "Because if you don't, your family will suffer the consequences." As we walked back toward Miguel's cave, Reeves told me more about Project Amalgam. They had facilities all over the country, creating different kinds of human-animal hybrids for the military. Some were meant for desert warfare, others for water operations. Miguel's group was designed for forest combat. I realized then that this was bigger than just my brother. They were creating an army of creatures like him, and they would never stop unless someone exposed what they were doing. But first, I had to save Miguel and somehow stop Reeves before he could hurt anyone else. Reeves and his soldiers marched me through the forest toward Miguel's cave. My mind raced, trying to figure out how to warn my brother. I couldn't let them capture him. "Stop here," I said suddenly. "I need to catch my breath." Reeves sighed but waved for everyone to halt. While pretending to tie my bootlace, I picked up a stick and tapped it against a tree. Our childhood code again. I tapped, "Trap! Run!" One of the soldiers noticed. "What are you doing?" "Just a nervous habit," I lied. We continued walking. When we got close to the waterfall, I saw fresh claw marks on the trees. Miguel had gotten my warning. He was gone. Reeves was furious. "Where is he?" he demanded, grabbing my arm. "I don't know," I said truthfully. The soldiers searched the cave, but found nothing except some torn clothing and empty food wrappers. Reeves ordered them to set up a perimeter. We would camp there overnight, hoping Miguel would return. As darkness fell, I sat by the fire, watching Reeves. He seemed nervous, constantly checking the shadows. "You're afraid of him," I realized aloud. Reeves glanced at me. "Not afraid. Cautious. Your brother isn't the same man you knew. He's becoming something else entirely." "What exactly did you do to him?" I asked. "We spliced his DNA with wolf and bear genes primarily," Reeves explained, his scientific pride overcoming his caution. "The treatments were designed to cure his muscular dystrophy first, which they did, then enhance his natural abilities. And the side effects: accelerated metabolism, enhanced senses, increased aggression." He paused. "And hunger. A constant gnawing hunger that's difficult to satisfy." A twig snapped in the darkness beyond our camp. Everyone froze. "Miguel?" I called out. A low growl came from the trees. Not quite animal, not quite human. "Weapons ready," Reeves ordered. His men. "No," I stood up. "Don't shoot, Miguel. It's me, Maria." A shadow moved at the edge of the firelight. Then Miguel stepped forward, and I gasped. He still looked human, mostly. He stood on two legs, but his body was changed. His muscles were larger, his fingers ended in sharp claws, and thick hair, not quite fur, covered parts of his skin. His face was still Miguel's face, but sharper somehow, with a hint of wolf in his features. But his eyes were still the same kind brown eyes I remembered. "Maria," he said, his voice rough, but understandable. "You shouldn't have come. I had to find you," I said. Reeves stepped forward. "Subject 9, you've led us on quite a chase." Miguel growled, showing teeth that were too sharp to be human. "My name is Miguel Santos." "Not anymore," Reeves said coldly. "You're property of the United States government. A very expensive piece of equipment." Miguel winced suddenly, doubling over. I rushed toward him, but the soldiers blocked my way. "What's wrong with him?" I demanded. "The transformation isn't stable," Reeves explained. "His human DNA fights against the animal genetics. It causes him pain, constant pain that will only get worse without our treatments." Miguel straightened up slowly. The pain reminds me. I'm still human, he gasped. He reached into a pouch tied around his waist and pulled out a plastic bag. Inside was a water-stained photograph. He held it out to me. My children, he said, Lisa and Carlos. I took the photo. 2 smiling kids. Looked back at me, my niece and nephew, whom I hadn't seen in years. Tell them I loved them, Miguel said. Tell them I died trying to help them, not like this. You don't have to die, Reeves interrupted. Come back with us. We can manage the pain, stabilize the transformation. And make more like me? Miguel snarled. Turn me into your weapon. You already are a weapon, Reeves said. The question is whether you'll be a useful one or a dead one. Miguel looked at me, his eyes full of sorrow. Every day I feel more animal, less human. My thoughts, they're simpler. Eat, hunt, survive. I fight to remember who I was. You're still my brother, I insisted. For now. Miguel's voice dropped to a whisper. But soon, I don't know what I'll become. A howl echoed through the forest. Not a wolf, but not human either. Miguel's head snapped up. They're coming, he said. Who's coming? I asked. The others, Miguel replied, like me, escaped, hiding. Reeves grabbed his radio. All units on alert, multiple subjects approaching. You made more like my brother? I asked, horrified. 17 subjects, Reeves said. 9 escaped, including your brother. The others died or were terminated. Miguel moved closer to me. They follow me, he said softly. I'm stronger, clearer. I can still think, plan. They can't, not as well, but together we hunt. Hunt what? I asked, though I already knew the answer. The white coats, he said, the ones who hurt us. More howls filled the night, closer now. The soldiers formed a protective circle around Reeves. They won't survive a week without treatment, Reeves said desperately. They need us to live. Miguel smiled, and it was a terrible sight. Then we'll live as long as we can. Free. One of the soldiers fired a shot into the darkness. Suddenly shapes burst from the trees, human-like but moving on all fours, snarling and growling. The soldiers opened fire, but there were too many. In the chaos, Miguel grabbed my arm and pulled me away from the camp. Run! We raced through the forest, leaving the sounds of fighting behind. I stumbled over roots and rocks, but Miguel moved with incredible grace, guiding me safely through the darkness. Finally, we stopped in a small clearing. Miguel stood guard, listening to the distant sounds. Your friends? I asked between gasping breaths. My pack, he corrected. We protect each other. Hunt together. I looked at my brother. This creature, that was both familiar and strange. What happens now? Now, Miguel said, we make them pay for what they did to us. Dawn broke over the forest. Miguel and I had spent the night in an old ranger cabin I knew about. He paced the small room, like a caged animal, never resting. You need to sleep, I told him. He shook his head. Can't. Too much noise in my head, animal instincts fighting with human thoughts. I noticed he was shivering, though it wasn't cold. Are you okay? The changes, he explained, rubbing his arms. Without the treatments, it hurts more. Body, fighting itself. Reeves said you need medical help to survive, Miguel snarled. Reeves lies, but not about everything. We won't last long like this. A few weeks, maybe. I felt my heart breaking. There has to be a way to help you. There isn't. Miguel sat down across from me. But you can help me do one good thing before I'm gone. Help me stop them from making more like me. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown. Number, we have your mother. Bring subject 9 to the facility or she dies. Reeves. I showed Miguel the message. His face, still recognizably my brother's despite the changes, twisted with anger. He won't stop, Miguel growled. None of them will. Using people's love against them is how they got us all to volunteer in the first place. What do we do? I asked. Miguel looked out the window at the forest. I have a plan, but you won't like it. 2 hours later, I walked into the clearing where Reeves waited with 4 heavily armed soldiers. My mother sat in a chair, looking terrified but unharmed. "Where is Subject 9? Reeves demanded. "He's coming," I said. "He made me promise you'd let my mother go first." Reeves laughed. "You're not in a position to negotiate. If you hurt her, Miguel will disappear forever," I warned. "You'll never find him or the others." Reeves considered this, then nodded to one of his men. The soldier cut my mother's zip ties. "Go to the road," I told her. "There's a ranger truck waiting. The keys are under the seat." Mom looked at me. "Maria, what's happening? They said Miguel is—" "Just go, Mom," I interrupted. "I'll explain everything later." Once she was gone, I turned back to Reeves. "Miguel wants to talk to you. Alone. Does he think I'm stupid?" Reeves scoffed. "He's dying," I said. "He knows it. He wants to make a deal himself in exchange for the others being left alone." Reeves studied my face, trying to detect a lie. Finally, he told his men to spread out but stay within shouting distance. "Now." "What?" he asked when we were relatively alone. I pulled out the radio Miguel had given me. "He's watching. He says to follow me." I led Reeves deeper into the forest, following Miguel's instructions. We were heading toward the hidden facility, but by a route the soldiers didn't know about. "Your brother is smarter than I gave him credit for," Reeves said as we walked. "Did you know he was the only subject who kept his full intelligence after the transformation? The others lost cognitive function because they became more animal than human." "Precisely, but Miguel found a balance somehow. That's what makes him so valuable." We reached a small stream. "He says to wait here," I told Reeves. A minute later, Miguel emerged from the trees. He looked worse than yesterday. His movements were stiff, and patches of fur were falling out. "Dr. Reeves," Miguel said, his voice raspy, "the man who promised to cure me." "I did cure your muscular dystrophy," Reeves pointed out. "Your children received treatment too. They're healthy now." Miguel's eyes flashed with anger. "You used my children to turn me into a monster." "I turned you into something better than human," Reeves countered. "The pain you're feeling now is just a transitional phase. Come back with me, and we can make it stop." "The pain will stop when I'm dead," Miguel said flatly. "But before that happens, I want your word that you'll leave the others alone." Reeves sighed. "Miguel, be reasonable. The others are deteriorating rapidly without treatment. They're becoming dangerous, feral. They need to be contained. They need to be free," Miguel growled. "Freedom to do what? Kill hikers? Attack towns when they get hungry enough?" Reeves shook his head. "They're weapons, Miguel. Dangerous weapons that need to be controlled." I watched my brother's face. The animal part of him wanted to tear Reeves apart. I could see it in his eyes. But the human part still held control. Barely. "Maria," Miguel said without looking at me. "The signal." I pulled out the radio and pressed the button 3 times. A second later, howls erupted from all around us. Miguel's pack had surrounded the area. Reeves reached for his gun, but Miguel moved with blinding speed, knocking it away. "You won't shoot your way out of this," Miguel told him. Shapes moved in the trees. The other experiments. They looked more animal than Miguel, moving on all 4s, their humanity almost completely gone. "This is what you created," Miguel said to Reeves. "And now you have a choice. Help them, or die here." "Help them how?" Reeves asked, his voice shaking. "Create a treatment that will let them die as humans, not monsters," Miguel said. "Give them peace." Reeves looked at the creatures surrounding us, then back at Miguel. "And if I refuse?" Miguel's voice was cold. "Then my pack gets their revenge." "I'll need my equipment, my lab," Reeves said quickly. "You'll work under Maria's supervision," Miguel told him. "One wrong move and the pack will know." Reeves turned to me. You're making a mistake. These creatures aren't people anymore. They're dangerous animals. They were people before you changed them, I said. They deserve to die with dignity. Suddenly, the sound of helicopters filled the air. Reeves smiled. My backup, he explained. Did you really think I'd come alone? Miguel looked at me, his eyes sad. Run, he whispered. Get the pack away, I'll hold them off. No! I grabbed his arm. I won't leave you. You have to, Miguel insisted. Someone needs to make sure Reeves keeps his word. Someone needs to tell my children the truth someday. The helicopters were getting closer. Soldiers would be dropping into the forest any minute. Go, Miguel said again. I'll buy you time. Tears ran down my face. There has to be another way. Miguel reached into his pocket and pulled out a vial. My medication, he explained. Enough for an overdose, quick and peaceful. I understood what he was asking. Miguel, I can't. Please, Maria, don't let them take me alive. Don't let me become their weapon. The first helicopter appeared overhead, spotlight sweeping. The trees. I took the vial with trembling hands. Tell my kids I love them, Miguel said. Tell them I died trying to help people. I uncapped the vial. I love you, brother. I love you too, sis. For a moment, he was just Miguel again, my brother who used to tap messages to me through the wall. I injected the medication into his arm. He winced, then relaxed. Thank you, he whispered. Miguel turned to the pack and let out a howl, a command to run. The creatures melted into the forest as soldiers began rappelling from the helicopters. I held my brother as the light faded from his eyes. By the time the soldiers reached us, he was gone, peaceful at last. Reeves stood over us, his face unreadable. You've just destroyed $1 billion investment. I looked up at him through my tears. No, I saved my brother. Reeves kneeled, down beside me. The others are still out there. They need treatment or they'll die suffering. Help us find them, and I'll make sure they're treated humanely. Why would I trust you? I asked. Because if you don't, he said quietly, we'll use your niece and nephew for the next phase of testing. Their genetics are perfect, just like their father's. Ice filled my veins. You wouldn't. Help us clean up this mess, or find out, Reeves said, standing. Your choice, Ranger Santos. In that moment, I made my decision. I would help Reeves find the pack, but not for him, for them. I would make sure they got the peaceful end they deserved. And then I would gather every piece of evidence I could find and expose Project Amalgam to the world. But I wouldn't do it alone. That night I called my sister-in-law and told her everything. I warned her to take the children and disappear. And I made another call to a journalist I knew from college who specialized in government cover-ups. This wasn't over. Miguel had died to stop them from making more monsters. I would make sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain. For years afterward, I lived a double life, helping the government track the remaining experiments while secretly working to bring them down. Every day was a lie, every moment a betrayal. But I kept going, for Miguel. And when my niece turned 18, I told her the truth about her father. Not that he was a monster, but that he was a hero who gave everything to protect his children, and I showed her how to continue his work. How to protect the world from the monsters that humans create in the name of progress. Sometimes late. At night I still hear tapping on my window like a code, like a message from long ago. Maybe it's just the wind. Maybe it's Miguel watching over me. Or maybe it's a warning that there are more experiments out there. More people being turned into things they were never meant to be. And if that's true, I'll be ready. Because that's the burden I carry now, protecting humanity from its own mistakes, one monster at a time. My name is Samuel Crowfeather. I'm 28 years old and work as an Apache scout for the U.S. Army. Today, as the summer sun beats down on my neck, I lead Captain Morrison and his men through the red rocks of Canyon de Chelly. How much farther? To where these savages are hiding, Captain Morrison asks, not bothering to hide his disgust. 3 miles, maybe 4, I answer, feeling the weight of my grandmother's medicine bag against my chest, hidden beneath my uniform. The blue jacket I wear feels heavy today. The eagle buttons catch the sunlight, reminding me that I serve the very people who killed my father. The soldiers ride behind me, talking as if I can't understand them. They laugh about wild Indians and red devils. To them I am just a trained dog who knows the desert, useful but never one of them. Remember, Crowfeather, Captain Morrison says, pulling his horse alongside mine. You help us catch these raiders, and that citizenship paper is yours. You'll be a real American. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. I nod but say nothing. What would he know about being a real American? My people have lived on this land for thousands of years. As we ride deeper into the canyon, I feel a tightness in my chest. This place holds the bones of my ancestors. My own grandfather rests in these rocks. I haven't told the soldiers this. We pass a wall of ancient drawings. They tell the story of the Guardian, a spirit that protects our burial grounds. Captain Morrison spits tobacco juice on the rock face. What's all this chicken scratch? He asks. Old stories, I say. Warnings. Warnings about what? About disturbing the dead. The captain laughs. Well, those gold miners didn't listen, did they? Now they're dead themselves. For weeks now, white prospectors have been blasting the sacred caves with dynamite, hunting for gold. 7 have disappeared. The army thinks my people killed them, but I know better. The old stories are true. There is something in this canyon that protects the dead. As we round a bend, I see fresh blast marks on the canyon wall. White dust covers the red stone like a sickness. I touch the medicine bag under my shirt. Grandmother gave it to me before she died. Remember who you are, she said. But who am I? A man wearing the uniform of my enemies, leading them to my own sacred land. Half of me wants the white man's promise of citizenship, a chance to live without fear. The other half hears my ancestors crying out from the rocks. The sun begins to set, painting the canyon walls blood red. Tomorrow we will find the miners' camp. Tomorrow I must choose which half of my soul will live and which will die. Morning comes too quickly. The air feels wrong, too still, like the whole canyon is holding its breath. We find the miners' camp just after sunrise, tucked into a wide part of the canyon beside a sacred cave. Dear God, whispers Private Johnson, the first to spot them. 7 men stand frozen in the camp. Not frozen from cold, frozen as stone. Their bodies are grey like the canyon walls, their faces twisted in terror. One has his pickaxe raised, caught in the middle of striking the cave wall. Another is running, or trying to. His stone legs are mid-stride, his face a scream that will never sound. Captain Morrison dismounts slowly. What kind of Apache trick is this? He asks, his voice shaking a little. Not a trick, I say quietly. A warning. Gold dust glitters on the ground around the stone men. It sparkles in the morning light, untouched. No Apache would leave gold behind. I walk to the cave entrance. Inside, ancient paintings cover the walls. I know these symbols from my grandmother's stories. They tell of the Keeper of Souls, a guardian spirit that protects our dead. The paintings seem to shift when I don't look directly at them, as if they're telling me something. What do they say? Captain Morrison demands, standing beside me now. His hand rests on his pistol. They say this is a sacred place, I answer. They say the dead must rest in peace. Superstitious nonsense, he mutters, but his eyes keep darting to the stone men outside. Tell me what really happened here. The soldiers gather around, loading their rifles. Private Johnson holds up bullets that have been blessed by an army chaplain. "These will protect us from evil spirits," he says, trying to sound brave. I touch the wall gently. "The paintings say that those who disturb the dead will face judgment. They say a guardian watches over this place." "Translate properly, Scout," Captain Morrison growls. "I need military intelligence, not ghost stories." I trace the symbols with my finger. They show a figure rising from the earth, made of stone and stars. The ancient warning is clear: wake not what sleeps beneath the red earth. "They're dynamiting burial caves," I explain. "My people have been buried here for generations. These men were changing the land that doesn't belong to them." "The land belongs to the United States government now," Captain Morrison says, "and these men had legal mining claims." I look at the stone figures again. One man's eyes seem to follow me. I feel a cold chill despite the desert heat. "Tell me where to find the hostiles who did this," the captain demands. But there are no hostiles, no raiders, just the ancient guardian, awakened by disrespect and greed. I know I should tell him this, but the words stick in my throat. I stand at the cave entrance, feeling torn in two directions. If I help the soldiers, I betray my ancestors. If I honor my people's ways, I lose my chance at citizenship, my chance to live without being hunted. The wind picks up suddenly, whistling through the canyon. It sounds almost like voices. "We need to leave this place," I say. "Not until we find who did this," Captain Morrison insists. But as the sun climbs higher, the shadows in the cave seem to deepen instead of fade. Something is waking up in Canyon de Chelly, something old and powerful. And I have led these men straight to it. The sun is high overhead now, but I'm shivering. The air has turned cold in a way that doesn't make sense. Desert heat should be burning our skin, but instead our breath comes out in small white clouds. "Something ain't right," mutters Private Johnson, hugging himself. I notice it first. The shadows. They're moving wrong. When the soldiers step one way, their shadows sometimes move another. Just small shifts, but enough to make my stomach twist. "Captain," calls Sergeant Willis from the far side of the camp. "These statues, they're bleeding." We gather around one of the stone miners. Red drops slide down his grey cheeks like tears. The same is happening to all 7 stone men. Blood seeps from their eyes, dripping onto the sacred ground. "What kind of Apache trick is this?" Captain Morrison demands again, but his voice shakes. "Not us," I say quietly. "It's the canyon. It's waking up." A low sound drifts from the holes where the miners set their dynamite. At first it sounds like the wind. Then it changes to something that makes the soldiers' faces go pale. Children crying, soft, distant, but unmistakable. "There ain't no children out here," Sergeant Willis says, looking around wildly. I know better. These are the cries of disturbed spirits, the ancestors whose rest was broken by greedy men with explosives. That's when I see her. Standing by the cave entrance is a young woman in traditional Apache clothes. Her hair is black and shiny, her skin smooth, but I recognize her eyes, my grandmother's eyes. She died 5 years ago, an old woman with white hair and bent back, yet here she stands, young and strong. "Grandmother?" I whisper in Apache. The soldiers don't seem to see her. She speaks softly in our language. "The keeper judges by what you do, not what you wish to do. Remember this, grandson." Before I can answer, she fades like morning mist. "Men, check your compasses," orders Captain Morrison. "We need to map this site." The soldiers pull out their compass tools, then look. Confused. "Sir, something's wrong," says Private Johnson. "Mine's pointing west, but Davis's is pointing north, and we're standing right next to each other." The captain grabs a compass and watches as the needle spins wildly, pointing to directions that don't exist. When the horses start to scream, even the bravest soldier jumps. The animals pull at their ropes, eyes rolling white with fear. They refuse to enter certain areas of the camp, rearing back as if facing an invisible wall. "Get control of those animals," the captain shouts. But the horses know what the soldiers don't. Something ancient walks among us now, something that doesn't obey the normal rules of the world. I step toward the cave paintings again, drawn by a strange glow. The colors seem brighter now, almost alive. As I watch, the figures on the wall begin to move slowly, showing scenes from Apache history. Not the history written in white men's books, but the true story. Villages burned, children taken, treaties broken. I turn to tell the captain, but the words die in my throat. He looks different. His face is changing before my eyes. Wrinkles form around his eyes, then deepen. His hair, brown this morning, now shows streaks of grey that spread like spilled water. "What are you staring at, Scout?" he snaps, not realizing he's aging before my eyes. "Time moves differently here now." I say, "The Guardian is changing the rules." "What Guardian? There's nothing here but rocks and superstition." But as he speaks, his voice cracks and weakens like an old man's. He touches his face, feels the new wrinkles, and his eyes widen with fear. "What's happening to me?" he whispers. I look up at the canyon walls towering above us. "The canyon is judging us," I say simply, "and it finds us wanting." The wind picks up again, stronger now, carrying dust and whispers. The shadows grow longer, even though the sun hasn't moved. Something is gathering in the air around us, a power old as the earth itself. The Guardian is awake, and soon we will all face its judgment. The ground beneath our feet begins to tremble. Not a big shake like an earthquake, but a gentle vibration, like the earth is humming. The canyon walls seem to glow with a faint blue light. Then I see it forming in the center of the camp. A tall figure taking shape from stone, earth, and what looks like bits of starlight. It grows until it towers over us, maybe 15 feet tall. It has the rough shape of a man, but its skin looks like the canyon walls, red and ancient. Where its eyes should be are two black spaces, deep and endless, like the night sky without. Stars. The soldiers freeze. Some raise their rifles, but their hands shake too much to aim properly. "What in God's name?" whispers Captain Morrison, his now grey hair blowing in the wind. The Guardian speaks, but not with a voice we hear with our ears. The words appear directly in my mind, and from the soldiers' faces I can tell they hear it too. It speaks every language at once, Apache, English, Spanish, and others I don't recognize. "You stand on sacred ground," it says. "You disturb the eternal sleep of the honored dead." Captain Morrison steps forward on shaky legs. "We are united. States Army. We have authority here." The Guardian turns its gaze to him. When those black void eyes look at you, you see things. I can tell from the captain's face that he's seeing something terrible, maybe his own death. "Your authority means nothing here," the Guardian says. "This place existed before your nation. It will exist after." One by one, it looks at each soldier. Each man sees something in those eyes that makes him pale and tremble. Then it turns to me. "Samuel Crow Feather," it says, using my full name. "You have brought these men here. You wear their clothes. You serve their purpose." The black void eyes show me a vision of my future. Me, old and alone, living in a shack at the edge of a white town. Not accepted by whites, forgotten by my own people. Dying alone, belonging nowhere. "Yet you carry the blood of the people." The Guardian continues. "You wear the medicine of your grandmother. Your spirit knows the truth, even when your mind forgets." As it speaks, I notice something happening to the soldiers. Starting at their feet, their skin is turning grey. They're slowly turning to stone, just like the miners. Private Johnson notices first, screaming as his legs become hard and immovable. "Help us!" Captain Morrison shouts to me, the stone already reaching his knees. "Stop this! I promised you citizenship. I promised you'd be one of us." The Guardian speaks again. You have a choice, Samuel Crowfeather. You can save these men by taking their place, or you can let justice be served. The wind dies down suddenly. Everything goes quiet. Your grandmother sent you here for this moment, the Guardian tells me. She knew you would face this choice. I stare at the captain, now stone up to his waist, his aged face twisted with fear. Is it true? I ask him. Would I really have gotten citizenship? Something breaks in his eyes. Indians don't become citizens, he spits. You were useful, nothing more. The truth hits me like a physical blow. I was never going to be accepted. All my service, my loyalty, it was for nothing. The Guardian is right, I say, more to myself than to him. My grandmother knew. She was preparing me for this moment my whole life. The stone creeps up the soldiers' chests now. They beg and cry out, but their voices grow weaker. Choose, says the Guardian. I look around at the canyon, at my ancestors' resting place. I think of my grandfather's bones buried in these walls. I think of the miners blasting and digging where they shouldn't, disturbing ancient peace for gold. I think of who I am and who I've been pretending to be. The choice before me isn't just about these men's lives. It's about which world I belong to, which part of my divided soul will survive. The captain is stone up to his neck now. His eyes, still human, plead with me. Choose, the Guardian says again, its starlight fingers reaching toward me. As I stand before the Guardian, pieces of truth begin to fall into place in my mind. The settlers who were killed, I say slowly. They weren't innocent farmers, were they? The Guardian's star-flecked hand sweeps through the air, and suddenly I can see scenes playing like pictures in the wind. White men with shovels digging into burial sites, taking bones, taking sacred objects, laughing as they pocket small treasures. Meant to travel with the dead to the next world. My people were protecting the graves, I whisper. They were stopping the grave robbers. The Guardian nods, its massive stone head moving slowly. The ones you call hostiles are the true protectors of this land. Captain Morrison, now stone up to his chin, manages to speak. Don't listen to this thing. Indians killed innocent Americans. But I know the truth now. I was sent to help the army find and punish my own people for defending our sacred sites. And there's more. I can see it in the Guardian's eyes. You never planned to just catch the raiders, I say to Morrison. You want me to show you all the burial grounds for your archaeological study. The captain can't hide his thoughts anymore. I see the truth in his eyes. They want to dig up all our sacred sites, to study our dead-like specimens, to take whatever treasures they can find. And the Apache scouts? I ask, already knowing the answer. The vision shows me soldiers shooting Apache scouts in the back once their usefulness ended. No witnesses, no complications, no citizenship papers to honor. You were going to kill us all along, I say. The captain's silence is answer enough. The Guardian speaks again, its voice like stones grinding together in my mind. I offer you this choice, Samuel Crowfeather. Renounce your service to these men. Remove their uniform. Stand with your ancestors. If you do this, I will spare these soldiers' lives. Don't do it, Scout. The captain manages to say, though the stone has nearly reached his mouth. You'll never survive out here alone. But I'm not alone. I never was. My grandmother's spirit, my grandfather's bones, all my ancestors, they've been with me all along. I reach up and unbutton the blue army jacket. I pull it off and drop it to the ground. I remove the pants, the boots, everything that marks me as a servant of the people who would destroy my heritage. I stand naked before the Guardian, the way I came into this world. Only my grandmother's medicine bag remains, hanging from my neck. I choose my people, I say. I choose to honor those who came before. The Guardian nods. A wise choice. The stone covering the soldiers begins to recede. Slowly, their bodies return to flesh. They gasp and touch themselves, making sure they're whole again. You are free to leave this canyon, the guardian tells them. But you will never find your way back to your fort. You will wander the desert feeling the thirst and fear that my people have felt at your hands. You will live, but you will understand. Captain Morrison opens his mouth to argue, but no sound comes out. The guardian has taken his voice. Go, I tell the soldiers, and never return to this sacred place. They gather their things with shaking hands. Without looking back, they hurry away, leading their nervous horses down the canyon. I turn back to the guardian. What happens to me now? You have chosen your path, it says. Now you must walk it. You will be my voice among the living. You will warn those who would disturb the dead. You will protect the sacred places. For how long, I ask? Until another comes who is worthy to take your place. I understand now. This is my true purpose, not serving two masters, but being fully who I am meant to be. A protector, a keeper of ancient ways. The guardian begins to fade, its starlight dimming, its stone form crumbling back to earth. But before it disappears completely, it touches my forehead with one massive finger. Knowledge floods into me. The location of every sacred site, the names of all who rest here, the words of power that can turn flesh to stone and back again. I feel the canyon become part of me, and I part of it. Decades pass like dreams. I watch the world change. Cars replace horses, airplanes cross the sky. Tourists come to the canyon with cameras and guidebooks. I appear when needed. A shadow, a dusk, a whisper on the wind, a sudden feeling of being watched that makes people step carefully around burial sites. Sometimes I must turn grave robbers to stone, but rarely. My warnings are usually enough. Park rangers tell stories about the mysterious figure who protects Canyon de Chelly. Some say I'm a ghost, others say I'm just a legend. Then one day, I see her, a young Apache woman in a park ranger uniform. She stands looking at the ancient drawings, really seeing them. She touches her own medicine bag, so like my grandmother's. I materialize beside her. She jumps, then stares. "You're him," she whispers. "The Covenant Keeper." I nod. "I've been waiting for you." She doesn't run. She doesn't scream. Instead, she listens as I begin to tell her about the Guardian, about choices, about who she truly is. My time of watching is ending. Hers is just beginning. The canyon has chosen again. My name is David Cross. I'm 52 years old, and I've given my life to serving the Lord. For 30 years, I've worked as a ranger in Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri, and for just as long, I've been a devoted member of New Light Baptist Church. I believe God put me in these woods for a reason, to witness His glory in nature, and to guide others to feel His presence among the trees. This November, I finally got permission to lead a youth retreat. 12 teenagers from our church, all eager to strengthen their faith in the wilderness. I've been planning this for months, marking trails on maps, preparing Bible studies, and praying for God's blessing on our journey. "Ranger Cross, how much further?" asked Emily, the youngest at 14. Her cheeks were flushed from the hike, but her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Just over this ridge," I said, pointing ahead. "The clearing by Stillwater Creek is perfect for our camp." The truth is, I needed this retreat as much as these kids did. My own children haven't spoken to me in years. My daughter Amy calls me a fanatic. My son Mark changed his last name after college. And my wife Sarah, well, she left 10 years ago saying she couldn't compete with God for my attention. "You love your Bible more than you ever loved me," were her last words before she walked out. Maybe she was right. But I've never wavered in my conviction, not once. God tests the faithful. By sunset, we had our tent set up in a circle. The November air was crisp but not too cold yet. The kids gathered around the campfire, their faces glowing orange in the flickering light. I pulled out my worn leather Bible, the pages dog-eared and highlighted from years of study. Today, I said, we'll read from Exodus, about Moses leading his people through the wilderness, just as we're journeying through our own wilderness. As I read, something changed in the air. The forest seemed to grow quieter, as if listening. The flames burned higher, steadier. The children's eyes grew wider, more attentive. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, I read, my voice growing stronger. That's when Johnny, a shy boy who barely spoke in Sunday school, started trembling. His eyes rolled back, and he began speaking in a language none of us understood. Then Lisa joined in, then Michael, then all of them, their voices rising and falling in strange harmony. I'd heard about speaking in tongues all my life, but never witnessed it. My heart pounded in my chest. This was it, the Holy Spirit moving among us. Just then, a blazing light streaked across the sky, a shooting star so bright it cast shadows through the trees. The kids gasped, pointing upward. "It's a sign," I whispered, tears welling in my eyes. "God approves of our journey." That night, as the children slept in their tents, I sat alone by the dying embers of the fire. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. God had chosen me for something special. I could feel it in my bones. "This retreat will change everything," I whispered to the stars. "My children will see that I was right all along. They'll understand why faith must come first." Little did I know how right I was. This retreat would change everything, but not in the way I imagined. God was testing me, just like he tested Abraham, and I was about to fail in ways I couldn't even comprehend. I woke up before dawn the next morning. The air felt different, somehow heavier, like before a storm, but the sky was clear. As I stepped out of my tent to start the breakfast fire, I saw it. At first, I thought it was just the morning light playing tricks through the fog. But then it took shape. A figure hovering above the creek, glowing so bright it hurt to look. Directly at it, wings of pure white light spread out behind it, at least 15 feet across. I fell to my knees, my whole body shaking. "David," it said, in a voice like bells ringing in perfect harmony. "David, cross." I couldn't speak. My throat closed up tight. "Rise, faithful servant," the angel said. "You have been chosen." One by one, the kids woke up. They stumbled out of their tents, rubbing sleep from their eyes. When they saw the angel, they froze. Some cried, others laughed with joy. Johnny, the shy boy who'd spoken in tongues the night before, stretched his arms toward the angel like a baby reaching for its mother. "Children of faith," the angel said, "your ranger cross will lead you to a holy place. Follow him without question, for great rewards await the faithful." The angel was more beautiful than anything I'd ever seen. Its face changed as you looked at it. Sometimes a young man, sometimes an old woman, sometimes something not quite human at all. But always perfect, always holy. "Where must I take them?" I asked, finding my voice at last. The angel pointed, deeper into the forest, toward the north. 3 days' journey. You will know the place when you arrive. Then it showed us heaven. I don't know how else to describe it. The air around us filled with golden light, and suddenly we could see beyond this world, streets of crystal, towers of pearl, faces of loved ones waiting for us. The kids gasped and reached out, trying to touch what couldn't be touched. "This will be yours," the angel promised, "if you prove worthy." When the vision faded, the kids were crying with happiness. Me too, if I'm honest. All my life I'd preached about heaven, and now I'd seen it with my own eyes. We packed up camp quickly, barely touching our breakfast. Nobody was hungry anyway. We felt full somehow just from being in the angel's presence. As we hiked north, following the angel's directions, my radio crackled to life. "Dad? Dad, are you there?" It was Amy's voice, my daughter. "Please respond." I pressed the talk button.
Amy, what's wrong?
"Nothing's wrong," she said, her voice scratchy through the static. I wanted to ask if you might come home for Thanksgiving this year. Mark's flying in from Seattle, and we thought..." The angel appeared beside me, visible only to me this time. "Earthly families are chains," it whispered. "They bind your soul to dust." I looked at the kids who were walking ahead, singing hymns. Their faces glowed with joy I'd never seen before. "I'm sorry, Amy," I said into the radio. "I have important work to do here, God's work." "It's just dinner, Dad," she said, her voice growing cold. "But fine, same as always." The radio went silent. By midday, the kids didn't want to stop for lunch. Emily, who'd been complaining of hunger that morning, now said food felt unnecessary. "I'm full of light," she explained, her eyes a bit too wide. "The angel said we don't need earthly food when we're filled with divine light." This worried me, but only for a moment. Hadn't Jesus fasted in the wilderness for 40 days? Weren't we experiencing a miracle just like those in the Bible? That night, the angel visited again, showing us more visions of heaven. The kids fell into trances, speaking prophecies I couldn't understand. Some of their words scared me, talk of final sacrifice and blood of the innocent. But the angel assured me this was normal, just the raw language of divine truth too powerful for human minds to process properly. As I lay in my sleeping bag that night, doubt crept in for the first time. The angel was beautiful, yes, but there was something off about how the kids were acting, too obedient, too joyful, even when they were clearly tired and hungry. "Lord," I prayed quietly, "if this is truly your messenger, fill me with certainty, and if not..." I couldn't finish the thought. The idea that we might be following something other than an angel of God was too terrible to consider. I fell asleep still praying, the angel's beautiful face floating in my dreams, slowly changing into something I couldn't quite see, something that made me wake up gasping in the darkest hour of the night, my heart pounding with a fear I couldn't name. By the third day, things had changed. The angel now visited us constantly, no longer just at dawn or dusk. It hovered near our group as we hiked, whispering things I couldn't hear to different children. They would nod, then wander off to pick up sticks or rocks, bringing them back like treasures. "What did the angel tell you to do?" I asked Lisa, a quiet 16-year-old who'd just returned with a handful of white pebbles. "To gather pure stones for the altar," she said, her voice flat. Her eyes looked glassy, like she wasn't really seeing me. "What altar?" I asked. She just smiled and walked away. That evening, the angel appeared above our campfire, its wings spreading wider than before, casting strange shadows that seemed to move on their own. "The time has come for sacrifices," it announced. "As Abraham proved his faith, so must you." The children immediately began emptying their backpacks, throwing their possessions into the fire: cell phones, jackets, food, water bottles. The flames turned blue and green as plastic melted and electronics popped. "Stop!" I shouted, but no one listened. The angel turned to me, its beautiful face suddenly stern. "Do you lack faith, David Cross?" "No, but they need these things to survive," I said. "The nights are getting colder. Those who serve God need no protection but his love," the angel said. "Or do you doubt his power to keep you warm?" I thought of all the times I'd told my own children that faith matters more than comfort or safety. How I'd made Mark go to church with a fever. How I'd thrown away Amy's sinful music, even though it was her favorite. I'd always chosen faith over their happiness. "No," I said quietly. "I don't doubt." I threw my own backpack into the fire, watching as my map, compass, and first aid kit curled and blackened. The next morning I woke up to find something disturbing. Circle of dead rabbits lay around our campsite, their bodies arranged in a perfect star pattern. Their throats had been cut. "Who did this?" I demanded, but the children just stared at me blankly. The angel required a small sacrifice, Johnny explained. It's in the Bible, Ranger Cross. Blood must be shed for forgiveness. He was right in a way. The Old Testament was full of animal sacrifices. But this felt wrong, cruel and wasteful. When I looked more closely at the children, I noticed their lips were blue. The temperature had dropped overnight, and without their jackets, they were freezing. Yet none of them complained. They stood silent, shivering, their eyes fixed on something. I couldn't see. Are you cold? I asked Emily, the youngest. The cold is just a test, she said, her teeth chattering. The angel says we'll be warm in the holy place. My radio crackled again. Amy's voice came through, panicked this time. Dad, the sheriff called me. Parents are worried sick. You were supposed to bring the group back yesterday. Where are... You please respond. Before I could answer, the angel appeared, its light dimmer than before, its wings now grey at the edges. The voice of doubt, it hissed. Satan works through those you love, David. He knows your weaknesses. I looked at the radio in my hand, then at the children's trusting faces. We're fine, Amy, I said finally. God is guiding us. Tell everyone not to worry. Dad, this isn't like you, Amy said, her voice breaking. Mom always said your faith would go too far someday, but I defended you. Please just bring those kids home. The angel floated closer, its face inches from mine. Hang up, it whispered. Prove your faith. I turned off the radio. That night, we reached a clearing I'd never seen before, though I thought I knew every inch of this forest. In the center stood a pile of rocks, an altar, I realized, with a chill. The children immediately began adding their white pebbles to it, working silently, their movements oddly synchronized. What is this place? I asked the angel. The holy place, it answered, where the final sacrifice will be made. I thought of Abraham, ready to sacrifice Isaac, how God had tested his faith to the breaking point, then stopped his hand at the last moment. What sacrifice? I asked, though deep down I already knew. The angel smiled, and for a split second, its face seemed to slip, revealing something underneath that made my stomach turn, something with too many eyes. The purest souls are the sweetest offering, it said. I looked at the children. They were singing now, a hymn I didn't recognize, the words in some ancient language. 3 of them, Emily, Johnny, and Michael, could barely stand. Their lips were blue, their fingers white with cold. They hadn't eaten in days. They were dying, I realized with horror, and I had led them here. This isn't right, I whispered. God doesn't want children to suffer. So spoke the doubters throughout history, the angel said coldly. Before every great miracle comes the greatest test of faith. Will you fail yours, David Cross? I looked at the altar, at the children, at the angel's beautiful, terrible face. For the first time in my life, I wasn't sure what God wanted me to do. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat against a tree, watching the children huddled together for warmth around the dying fire. Emily's breathing seemed shallow, her small face pale in the moonlight. What had I done? What was I still doing? The angel appeared just before dawn, but something was different. Its light flickered like a bad fluorescent bulb, and the edges of its form seemed to blur and shift. It is time, David, it said. Bring the children to the altar at sunrise. For what purpose? I asked, my voice stronger than I expected. The angel's face changed, not the gentle shifting I'd seen before, but a violent twisting. For just a second, I saw something else behind. The beauty, something ancient and hungry. Do not question, it snapped. Abraham did not question. Abraham heard directly from God, I said, not an angel. The creature, because I was no longer sure it was an angel, moved closer. Its breath smelled like rotting leaves. I tire of this game, David Cross, it whispered. You were chosen because of your perfect faith, your unquestioning obedience, the way you put God above even your own children. Its wings began to change, the feathers melting together like wax, forming something else, long, writhing tentacles that reached toward me. "What are you?" I gasped, scrambling backwards. The thing laughed, a sound like glass breaking. Then, before my eyes, it transformed completely. What stood before me wasn't an angel. It was a nightmare, a mass of twisting limbs and blinking eyes, its skin oily and iridescent like a raven's feather. At its center was a mouth ringed with teeth. "I am older than your god," it said. "I have been worshipped under many names, in many forms. I feed on faith, on devotion, on the life force of true believers." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. "Your kind is so easily deceived," it continued. "Show them a bit of light, speak in riddles, and they'll follow you anywhere, even to their deaths." It gestured toward the clearing with one long, jointed limb. For the first time, I noticed bones scattered among the leaves, small bones. "Human bones. You're not the first shepherd to lead lambs to my altar, David," it said. "Though I must say, your flock is particularly delicious. Such pure faith. Such innocence." The creature showed me visions then, not of heaven this time, but of my family. Sarah crying as she packed her bags, Mark tearing up a Bible in rage, Amy sitting by the phone, waiting for calls that never came. "You chose your God over them," the creature said, "just as you're choosing me over these children now." "I never chose you," I said, finding my voice at last. "You tricked me." The thing laughed again. "Did I? Or did you trick yourself? Your fanaticism made you perfect for me, David. You were so eager to see miracles that you never questioned what was right in front of you." It floated closer, its stench overwhelming me. "Religious extremists are my favorite meal," it whispered. "The way you torture yourselves with guilt, the way you deny your humanity in pursuit of purity, it's the most delicious suffering there is." The sky was beginning to lighten. Soon, it would be sunrise. "You have a choice now, David Cross," the creature said. "Bring the children to the altar and complete the sacrifice. I'll grant you what you've always wanted: absolute certainty, perfect faith, eternal grace. Or refuse and watch them die slowly anyway. They're too far gone now, too cold, too hungry, too lost in my spell." I looked at the children. They were awake now, standing in a line, eyes fixed on the altar. They couldn't see the creature for what it was. They still saw an angel. "It's time, Ranger Cross," Emily said, her voice dreamy. "The angel says we'll see heaven today." I felt sick. This creature had been manipulating me from the start, using my own rigid beliefs against me, and I had let it happen. I had led these innocent children right to it. For the first time in my life, I didn't know what to do. My faith, the one thing I had always counted on, had betrayed me. Or had I betrayed it? The sun was about to rise. I had to decide. "Come, children," the creature said, its voice still beautiful despite its horrible form. "It is time for your reward." The kids began walking toward the altar, their movements stiff like sleepwalkers. Johnny helped Emily, who could barely stand. "No," I shouted, grabbing Emily's arm. "Stop! This isn't an angel." But Emily just smiled at me, her eyes unfocused. "Don't be afraid, Ranger Cross. The angel showed us heaven. We're ready. Please," I begged, looking at each of their faces. "Listen to me. This thing is lying to us." "Your doubt is a sin," Michael said, his voice not sounding like his own. "The angel warned us you might fail the final test." The creature circled above us, its many eyes blinking with amusement. "They can't hear you, David. Their faith is perfect, unlike yours." Lisa started laying down on the stone altar, her arms spread wide. The others formed a circle around her, holding hands and singing that strange hymn again. I felt helpless, watching this nightmare unfold. Then my radio crackled. "Dad? We're here, at your original campsite. Where are you?" It was Amy's voice. The creature hissed, tentacles whipping through the air. "Amy?" I grabbed the radio. "Amy! We're north of Stillwater Creek, in a clearing with a stone altar. Hurry! A search party is with me," she said. "But Dad, there's no clearing with an altar on any of our maps." The creature laughed. "They'll never find you. My power bends reality itself. They could walk right through this clearing and see nothing but trees." I looked at the children, then at the monster pretending to be an angel, then down at my hand, still clutching the radio. My daughter was out there looking for me despite everything. And suddenly I understood something important. Love, real human love, was stronger than any faith I'd ever had. I'd been wrong all these years, pushing away my family in the name of devotion. "I renounce you," I said to the creature. "And I renounce the blind faith that led me here." The creature screeched, its form rippling with rage. "You can't fight me with empty words, David Cross," it snarled. "I've consumed holier men than you." But I wasn't finished. I turned to the children, who were still singing, still preparing. Lisa, for whatever horrible sacrifice the creature wanted. "I was wrong," I said loudly, "about everything. Faith isn't blind obedience. It isn't choosing God over people. True faith is love. It's caring for each other." Some of the kids looked confused, their singing faltering. "The angel says not to listen," Johnny warned, but his voice sounded uncertain. The creature swooped down, its tentacles reaching for the children. "They're mine!" I had no weapons, nothing holy to fight this thing. Just my ranger's pocket knife, my flashlight, and my radio. I grabbed the flashlight and shined it directly at the creature. It shrieked, tentacles recoiling from the ordinary beam of light. "You're not an angel," I said firmly. "Angels don't. Fear light." I stepped forward, keeping the flashlight trained on it. "You're just a predator, feeding on fear and blind faith." As I spoke, I realized the children were watching me, really seeing me for the first time in days. The creature's spell was weakening. "Kids, run!" I shouted. "This thing wants to hurt you. It's not from God." The creature lunged at me, knocking me down. My flashlight flew from my hand. I felt its weight on my chest, smelled its rotten breath as its mouth opened wide. "Your faith is broken," it hissed, "but I can still feast on your life." I closed my eyes, ready for the end. But then I heard a voice. "Dad?" Amy stood at the edge of the clearing, a search party behind her. They all held flashlights, their beams cutting through the morning mist. The creature howled, its form beginning to dissolve in the multiple lights. "Get the children!" I gasped, struggling to my feet. The search party rushed forward, grabbing the confused teenagers. But Emily, Johnny, and Michael didn't move. They lay on the ground, their faces peaceful, but their bodies still. They'd been too weak, too cold, too hungry. "No," I whispered, kneeling beside Emily's small form. "Please, no." The creature, now just a shadow among the trees, laughed softly. 3 souls for my altar. Not 12, but enough to sustain me until the next faithful fool comes along. Then it was gone, leaving behind only a cold wind. Amy knelt beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "Dad, what happened? What was that thing?" I couldn't answer, couldn't explain how my rigid faith had made me the perfect tool for evil, how I'd led these children to their deaths because I was so sure I knew God's will. The surviving kids were coming out of their trance-like state, looking around in confusion and horror. Lisa was sobbing, being held by a paramedic. "It felt so real," she kept saying. "Heaven felt so real." In the days that followed, as the bodies were recovered and the questions began, I tried to explain. About the angel that wasn't an angel, about how my need for divine approval had blinded me to the danger. No one believed me, of course. The official report blamed exposure, poor planning, and religious hysteria. I was charged with negligent homicide, though eventually the charges were reduced. I never went back to church, never opened my Bible again. The creature had taken my faith along with those 3 innocent lives. But something else grew in its place. Amy stayed with me through the trial, through the nightmares that followed. Slowly we rebuilt what my fanaticism had broken. I don't understand how you can forgive me, I told her one night months later. Because that's what love does, Dad, she said simply. It doesn't keep score like your old faith did. I still work in the forest, though not as a ranger anymore. Just a volunteer who helps maintain the trails. Sometimes on cold November nights, I think I see a light moving among the distant trees. And I warn any hikers I meet to be careful what they worship, what they follow blindly. Because true holiness, I've learned, isn't found in perfect obedience or supernatural visions. It's in questioning, in doubting, in choosing love over doctrine. The creature taught me that, in the most terrible way possible. 3 children died. Because of my certainty, I'll carry that burden for the rest of my life. But perhaps by telling this story, I can prevent someone else from making the same mistake. Faith without doubt isn't faith at all. It's just another kind of hunger, waiting to be fed. My name is Lisa Zhang. I've always felt like something wasn't quite right with me, like there was a piece missing. Maybe that's normal for someone who grew up not knowing where they came from. I work as a park ranger at Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky. The endless tunnels and chambers feel more like home to me than any house I've ever lived in. There's something about the cool darkness that calls to me, especially the parts near the underground rivers. Lately, I've been noticing strange things happening to the animals down here. Fish with extra fins, bats with unusual markings. It's like their bodies are changing, mutating into something new. As someone who's studied genetics for years, I know this isn't normal. Found another one, my colleague Mark said, holding up a jar with a small cave salamander inside. Its skin was almost translucent, and I could see organs that didn't match any anatomy I'd studied. That's the 3rd one this month, I replied, taking the jar carefully. Something's changing them. My interest in genetics isn't just professional. I was adopted as a baby, and my records were sealed. I've never known who my birth parents were or where I really came from. All my life I've studied inherited traits, hoping that understanding genetics might somehow help me understand myself. Last week, a family visited the cave with their young daughter. She was about 7 years old and kept talking about her other mommy's house with such detail that her parents looked embarrassed. She's been doing this for months, the mother whispered to me, while the girl traced patterns on the cave wall, describing places we've never been, people we don't know. I nodded politely, but something about it stuck with me. Later that day, I heard about other children in the area doing the same thing, remembering lives they never lived. Sometimes I wonder if my own memory is playing tricks on me. There are gaps in my childhood that I can't explain. Whole months missing. I always blamed it on trauma or stress, but now I'm not so sure. Yesterday, I ventured into a section of the cave that's off limits to tourists. The beam of my flashlight swept across the wall, and I froze. There, among ancient cave paintings, was a face that looked eerily like mine. The same high cheekbones, the same almond-shaped eyes. But these paintings were hundreds of years old. My hands shook as I took samples from the water nearby. Under my microscope back at the lab, I found tiny worm-like creatures unlike anything I'd seen before. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out the DNA test results I'd gotten last year, the ones I'd never fully understood. The geneticist had called them anomalies, markers that didn't make sense in a human genome. I'd assumed it was a lab error. This morning, I found myself drawn to a cave passage I'd never explored before. My feet seemed to know the way, turning at unmarked junctions, ducking under low ceilings without hesitation. It was like my body remembered a path my mind had never taken. In a small chamber at the end of the passage, I found a metal box. Inside were papers, adoption papers. My adoption papers, but they weren't from the agency my parents had told me about. According to these documents, I wasn't adopted from China, as I'd always believed. I was found as an infant, right here in these caves. The water dripped steadily around me as I stared at the yellowing papers. Who am I? Where did I come from? And why do I feel like the caves are calling me home? The headaches started 3 days after I found those papers. Not normal headaches, but ones that came with flashes of memories I couldn't possibly have. I remembered sitting at a kitchen table with a woman singing softly in Mandarin while she braided my hair. The weird thing was, I recognized the song, could even hum along, but my adoptive mom never sang in Mandarin. She didn't speak it at all. "You look tired," Mark said when I showed up for my shift. "Everything okay?" "Just not sleeping well," I said, which wasn't a lie. How could I sleep when every time I closed my eyes, I saw faces I'd never met but somehow knew? I started writing down these strange memories in a notebook. In one, I was playing in a backyard with a dog named Lucky. In another, I was crying as my mother, a different mother, packed a suitcase and promised she'd be back soon. Each memory felt completely real, with smells and sounds and feelings so clear I could almost touch them. The really scary part came when I looked in the mirror one morning and, for a split second, saw someone else looking back at me. Still, an Asian woman, but older, with different cheekbones and a small scar above her eyebrow that I don't have. I blinked, and my normal face returned, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong with me. I went to my doctor thinking maybe I had a brain tumor or something causing hallucinations. Dr. Miller examined me, looked at my medical history, and frowned. "Lisa, according to your records from 3 years ago, you had a scar on your lower back from a childhood accident." "I still do," I said, reaching back to touch it. "No," he said quietly, "you don't." He was right. The scar that had been there my whole life was gone, and that wasn't all. My medical records showed my blood type as O negative, but the test he ran that day came back as AB positive. "This can't be right," I whispered. "We'll run it again," he assured me, but his eyes showed he was as confused as I was. On my way home, I drove through town and found myself turning down streets I'd never been on, pulling up to a house I didn't recognize. Yet my hands knew exactly where the spare key was hidden, under a fake rock by the garage door. I sat in my car for an hour, terrified of what was happening to me. The next day, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen stopped me in the visitor center. "You look just like her," she said, her eyes wide. "Just like my niece who disappeared in these caves in 1983. My hands trembled as she showed me a photo from her wallet. The woman in the picture could have been my sister. That night I went back to the lab and looked again at those strange worms from the cave water. Under the microscope, I could see something I'd missed before. Tiny strands that looked like human DNA, but from multiple sources, all mixed together inside the worms' bodies. I called an old college friend who specialized in genetic research. "Is it possible," I asked carefully, "for memories to be stored in DNA?" "There's some research suggesting traumatic experiences might affect genetic expression across generations," she said. "Why do you ask?" I couldn't tell her the truth, that I was starting to think these worms were somehow collecting human DNA, and that the memories flooding my mind belonged to other women. The final piece clicked when I found the old newspaper articles about missing women in the caves, 8 disappearances over the last century, all Asian women between the ages of 20 and 40. When I saw their photos, I recognized every face, not as strangers, but as reflections I'd seen in my mirror. What was happening to me wasn't a search for my identity anymore. It was the horror of having too many identities, all fighting for space in my mind. And somehow, those worms in the cave water were connected to all of it. I wasn't going crazy. I was remembering lives I never lived. Their lives. And with each passing day, I was becoming less sure which memories were actually mine. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. How could I? Hey, I think parasitic worms in the cave are giving me memories of missing women isn't exactly something people would understand. Instead, I waited until my day off and packed my backpack with supplies, extra batteries for my flashlight, water, protein bars, sample containers, and my camera. I needed answers, and I knew they were deeper in the caves. The passage I followed wasn't on any of the official maps. It twisted downward, getting narrower, until I had to crawl on my hands and knees. The sound of running water grew louder. My flashlight beam caught something shimmering in the darkness ahead. A pool of water that seemed to glow with a faint blue light. I collected water samples and shined my light around the chamber. What I saw made me drop my collection tube. The walls weren't made of rock, at least not entirely. They were lined with thousands, maybe millions of the worms, all pulsing, together like a single organism, and embedded in them were objects. At first I thought they were stones. Then I realized they were teeth, human teeth. My stomach turned as I forced myself to look closer, not just teeth. Hair, fingernails, tiny fragments of bone, all preserved in the writhing mass of worms. They're collecting, I whispered to myself. They're saving pieces of people. I don't know why I wasn't more afraid. Maybe because some part of me already knew what I would find. I reached out and touched the wall of worms. Images flooded my mind instantly. A young woman running through the caves in 1962, another falling into a hidden pool in 1983, a girl my age lost from a tour group in 1994, the year I was supposedly born. I pulled my hand away, gasping. The truth hit me like a punch to the stomach. I wasn't adopted. I wasn't even fully human, not in the way I'd always thought. The memory worms, that's what I decided to call them, had been collecting genetic material from people who died in these caves for centuries. Somehow, they could combine that material to create me. My memories weren't false. They were real experiences that belonged to the women whose DNA created me. My changing blood type, my disappearing scars, my body was still settling, still being rewritten by the genetic information the worms had preserved. I sat down hard on the cave floor, my flashlight beam dancing across the ceiling. Was anything about me real? My love of hiking, my favorite foods, my laugh that always sounded like my mother's, except she wasn't my mother at all. I wasn't looking for my family. I was my family, a walking, talking collection of genetic material from multiple sources. A splash from the pool made me turn. Something was rising from the water, another collection of worms, shaped roughly like a human figure. I should have run. Instead, I watched as it approached. It didn't speak, not with words, but somehow I understood what it was showing me. The worms had been in these caves for thousands of years. They collected genetic material from those who died here, not to harm, but to preserve. I saw images of other people like me, children created from the preserved genetic material, placed with families who thought they were adopting orphans, each one a living backup of human DNA, carrying the genetic heritage of those who would otherwise be lost forever. I wasn't the only one. There were others, dozens, maybe hundreds, all carrying the genetic memories of people long dead, all created by these ancient worms. The worm figure reached out, touching my face with a dripping tendril. I felt a warmth, spread through my body like recognition, like coming home. What am I supposed to do now? I asked, surprised that I wasn't screaming or running away. How am I supposed to live knowing I'm not real? The creature had no answer. It simply sank back into the pool, leaving me alone with my question. As I made my way back to the surface, I thought about all the times I'd felt out of place, different from everyone else. Now I knew why. I wasn't searching for my identity. I had too many identities already. I wasn't Lisa Zhang, not really. I was a collection of women who had died in these caves, their DNA preserved and combined by creatures that had no concept of individual human life. And now that I knew the truth, I had to decide what to do about it. For 3 days after my discovery, I called in sick to work. I couldn't face people, not when I wasn't sure who or what I really was. I spent hours staring at my reflection, wondering which parts of my face came from which woman. Was my chin from the hiker who disappeared in 1962? Were my eyes from the college student in 1983? On the 4th day, I woke up speaking Cantonese, a language I'd never learned. I found myself cooking a dish I'd never made before, my hands moving with the confidence of someone who had made it hundreds of times. "This isn't me," I whispered, as I looked down at the perfectly prepared food. "Whose memory is this?" I went back to the caves that night. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. How could I explain what I was doing? I just knew I needed answers. This time, I went deeper, following a pull I couldn't explain. The worms seemed to be guiding me, lighting up in soft blue patterns along the walls to show me the way. I found a large chamber I'd never seen before. In the center was a pool larger than the last one, glowing bright blue. As I approached, the surface of the water rippled and parted. A figure rose up, not just a rough shape this time, but something that looked almost human. "You've come back," it said, though not with words. I heard it in my mind, a voice that was somehow many voices speaking together. "I need to understand," I said. "What am I?" The figure waved a hand, and the walls of the chamber lit up with images, like watching 100 movies at once. I saw the memory worms collecting tiny bits of DNA from people who had died in the caves over centuries. I saw them carefully combining these fragments, preserving them. "We are the keepers," the voice explained in my head. "We preserve what would otherwise be lost." "But why make me?" I asked. "Why create people from these collections? Storage is not enough. The information must be lived, experienced. A genetic sequence is just code unless it exists in a living body." I tried to wrap my mind around what it was saying. "So I'm just a backup drive? A walking storage unit for dead people's DNA?" "You are more," the figure said. "You are many lives in one. You carry their gifts, their strengths. You are the sum of their experiences." As it spoke, I felt a shift inside me. Suddenly, I wasn't just Lisa anymore. I could feel them. The other women whose DNA created me, their thoughts, their feelings, their memories becoming clearer in my mind. A young doctor who came to study the cave system in the 1970s, falling into a hidden pit. A photographer who wandered too far from her tour group in 1983. A geology student who got trapped by rising water in 1994. They were all there, inside me. Not just their DNA, but somehow their consciousness too, preserved by the worms, now awakening as part of my own mind. "We can't let them be forgotten," the voice said. "Humans are killing their own diversity. Soon, much will be lost forever." It showed me visions of the future, a world where genetic diversity had collapsed, where disease ran rampant through populations that were too similar, too vulnerable to the same threats. "We preserve what humans discard," it continued. "We create vessels, like you, to carry what would otherwise be lost." I felt tears running down my face. But who am I then? Am I just a vessel? Do I even have my own identity? The figure reached out, touching my forehead gently. "You are the caretaker, the library. Without you, they would be truly dead, truly gone." As its tendril touched me, I felt the separate identities inside me growing stronger. I could feel myself shifting between them. One moment the confident doctor, the next the curious student, then the creative photographer. My body didn't change, but my mind cycled through different personalities, different memories. It was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. "The choice is yours," the entity said. "We can remove them, give you a single identity, or you can accept your role as a genetic archive." I thought about the women whose lives I now carried. If I rejected them, they would be truly gone forever. Everything they had been, everything they had known, would disappear. "What happens if I say yes?" I asked. Will I still be me?" "You will be more than you are now," it answered, "but you will never again be only one person." I looked down at my hands that had seemingly healed scars on their own, hands that could cook dishes I'd never learned to make. Was I ready to accept that I wasn't just Lisa Zhang, that I was many women in one body? And more importantly, was I ready to accept that I was created, not born, a living library of human genetic heritage? The water rippled around the entity as it waited for my answer, and I knew my decision would change everything. Standing there with the blue glow of the pool lighting my face, I thought about what it meant to be human. Is it our bodies, our memories, our sense of being just one person? "If I accept this," I said slowly, "what happens to Lisa, the person I've been for 34 years?" The entity tilted its head. "She remains but as one voice among many. You will still be Lisa, but also Chen and Mei and Jia and all the others." I closed my eyes, feeling the different personalities shifting inside me. Some were scared, others curious. One, the doctor, was fascinated by what was happening to us. "Show me," I whispered. "Show me what the world will be like if you don't do this work." The entity waved its hand again, and visions filled my mind. I saw a future where humans looked more and more alike, where diseases spread quickly because everyone's immune system had the same weaknesses, where cultures and languages disappeared because there weren't enough people left to remember them. "This is what's coming," I asked. "One possible future," it replied. "Without diversity, humans become vulnerable. We preserve what would otherwise be lost." I took a deep breath. "And there are others like me? Other archives?" "Many," it confirmed. "Each carrying different combinations, different preservations." The thought was strangely comforting. I wasn't alone in this. There were others out there living normal lives while carrying extraordinary genetic libraries within them. I could find them, I realized. We could help each other understand what we are. The entity seemed pleased. "You begin to see your purpose," but I wasn't ready to decide yet. "You said you could give me a real identity, make me just Lisa again. How?" "We would remove the other genetic memories, leave only one set of experiences. You would be simpler, singular." "And what happens to the other women's memories, their experiences?" "Lost," it said simply, "until we find another suitable vessel." I thought about the women I now carried inside me, the doctor who had dreams of helping people, the photographer who saw beauty in everything, the student who was only beginning her life when it was cut short. Did I have the right to erase them, to choose my comfort over their existence? "They never asked for this," I said, "to be part of me, to be preserved." "No," the entity agreed, "but now they live through you. Is that not better than being forgotten?" I walked to the edge of the pool, looking at my reflection in the glowing water. For a moment I saw not my face but a shifting collage, all the women whose DNA created me, looking back at me. "If I say yes," I said, "can I still have my life, my job, or will I become something else?" "You may live as you choose," the entity said. "Many archives do. They protect our work without others knowing what they are." I thought about my job as a ranger, how I'd always felt drawn to protect these caves. Maybe that wasn't an accident. Maybe some part of me always knew what was hidden here. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "If I agree, awareness, protection, and when the time comes, help. Finding others who may join our work." Other archives? And those who might become archives, those whose genetic gifts should not be lost. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the decision. To give up being just one person, to accept that I was many women in one body, to protect a secret that most people would never understand, but also to preserve something precious, to keep these women's experiences alive, to be part of something that might save humanity from a future of vulnerability and sameness. I choose to remember, I said finally. I choose to be all of us. The entity reached out, touching my forehead once more. This time, instead of confusion, I felt clarity. The separate voices in my mind didn't disappear. They harmonized. I was still Lisa, but I was also Chen the doctor, May the photographer, Jia the student, and others whose names I was just beginning to learn. I wasn't losing myself. I was becoming more. Return to your life, the entity said, but remember what you carry. As I made my way back through the caves, I felt different. Stronger, my senses seemed sharper. I knew things I hadn't known before. Medical knowledge from Chen, artistic vision from May, geological insights from Jia. I emerged from the cave just as dawn was breaking. The world looked the same, but I saw it differently now. I wasn't just looking through my eyes anymore, but through the eyes of all the women I carried within me. 2 weeks later, I was back at work. To everyone else, I was still just Ranger Lisa Zhang. No one could see that I was now a living library of human diversity. But I noticed things I hadn't before. A young woman working in the gift shop, whose features reminded me of my own shifting reflection. A man leading tours, who sometimes spoke languages he claimed he'd never studied. Other archives hiding in plain sight. I approached them carefully, one by one. Do you ever remember things you couldn't possibly know? I would ask. Do you ever feel like you're more than one person? The recognition in their eyes told me everything. We began meeting secretly, sharing our experiences. Each of us carried different combinations, different preservations. Together, we formed a network of human archives, living normal lives while protecting humanity's genetic heritage. I never found my biological family because I never had one. Instead, I found something larger, a purpose that spanned centuries and might help save our future. My search for identity ended when I accepted that I didn't have just one. I was many women, many experiences, many lives, all preserved in a single body. And as I stand here now, looking out over the entrance to Mammoth Cave, I feel them all within me, not fighting for control anymore, but working together. A perfect family inside one person. I am Lisa Zhang. I am Chen and May and Jia. I am the memory keeper. And my story is just beginning. My name is Janet Winters. I've been a park ranger at Glacier National Park for almost 20 years now. The mountains and forests here are more like home to me than the little cabin I sleep in. At least they used to feel that way. Something's wrong with me. The doctors say it's early onset Alzheimer's. I'm only 45, but apparently that happens sometimes. They told me with that sad look people get when they're delivering bad news, they've practiced saying. I noticed it first on the hidden lake trail last month. There's this big rock shaped like a turtle that I've passed 1,000 times. But that day, I stopped and stared at it, feeling like it meant something important, like it was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't remember what. You okay there, Jan? My radio crackled with Dave's voice. He's another ranger, been here almost as long as me. Yeah, just thinking, I said, and kept walking. That night, I found my field notebook on the table. I always write down anything unusual I see during patrols, but there were 3 pages of notes I didn't remember writing. My handwriting, definitely, but talking about a group of hikers I had apparently helped find their way back to the main trail. I had no memory of meeting anyone that day. The next morning, I checked my camera. I always take photos of wildlife or trail damage to report back. But the memory card was full of pictures of places in the park I couldn't remember visiting. One photo. There was a woman smiling next to me, a ranger I'd never seen before. But we had our arms around each other like old friends. I showed the picture to Dave in the ranger station. "That's Marissa," he said slowly, like he was talking to a child. "She worked with us for 3 years. She left last summer, Jan. You and two were close." I nodded like I remembered, but I didn't. Not at all. Last week I got lost on a trail I've walked hundreds of times. I had to radio for help, and I could hear how worried everyone was. When I got back, my supervisor Tom called me into his office. "Janet, I think it might be time to consider early retirement," he said gently, "for your own safety. You're a great ranger, but..." "I'm fine," I insisted. "Just tired lately." "But I'm not fine. I keep finding things that don't make sense." A hiker stopped me yesterday and thanked me for helping his family the day before in the eastern section of the park. But I was assigned to the western trails all week. The lost and found box had my favorite blue hat in it. I didn't even notice it was missing. And my watch, and a compass with my initials engraved on it. "You turned these in yourself," the front desk clerk told me. "Said you found them on the trail." Last night, I was cleaning up my cabin when I found a journal wedged behind my bookshelf. It's a small leather notebook I don't remember buying, but when I opened it, I recognized my handwriting again. Only this writing was different. Hurried, messy, urgent. The first page just said, "It steals thoughts and leaves emptiness." The rest was filled with notes about something watching me in the forest. Something that follows hikers and rangers. Something that takes pieces of their minds. I read until my hands were shaking too hard to hold the book, because it wasn't just rambling. There were dates, times, locations, all written by me in a journal I have no memory of keeping, and the last entry dated just last week. I'm forgetting more now. It's taking bigger pieces. When I forget this journal exists, that's when I'll know it's winning. I couldn't sleep after finding that journal. I kept reading it over and over, trying to make sense of it. The pages were filled with notes about missing hikers, people who had vanished in the park over the last 6 months. The weird thing is, I don't remember any missing person cases recently, but according to my journal, I've been looking into them for months. Case number 3, Ryan Miller, 32, I had written. Reported memory problems 2 days before disappearing. Told his girlfriend he felt like someone was watching him on the trail. Case number 7, Susan Chen, 45, park volunteer. Complained about forgetting simple tasks. Found her backpack at Grinnell Glacier, but no sign of her. I flipped through the pages, my heart beating faster. There were 12 cases total, all people who had problems with their memory before they disappeared, just like me. This morning, I turned my cabin upside down. Under my bed, I found a box filled with maps of the park. Red X marks showed spots where people had disappeared. Newspaper clippings about missing hikers were pinned to the maps. Photos of empty trails with circles drawn around certain spots, like I was trying to point something out. It was all in my handwriting, all organized like a real investigation. But I didn't remember doing any of it. When I went to work, I checked our missing persons records. There was nothing about any of the 12 people from my notes. It was like they never existed. "Hey, Dave," I said during lunch, trying to sound casual. "Do you remember a hiker named Ryan Miller going missing recently?" Dave looked at me strangely. "No one's gone missing in the park for almost a year, Jan. We've been lucky." I nodded and changed the subject. After my shift, I checked the security camera footage from the ranger station. I wanted to see if I'd been acting weird without realizing it. What I saw made my blood run cold. There I was on the screen at 2 a.m. 3 nights ago, using my key to enter the station. I walked to the filing cabinet where we keep incident reports and spent nearly an hour going through files. Then I took something from my pocket. It looked like a small camera and photographed several documents. But I have no memory of doing any of that. I was asleep in my cabin that night. At least I thought I was. When I got home, I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror, trying to make sense of everything. As the mirror fogged up from the shower, I saw something that made me step back in shock. Words were appearing in the steam like someone was writing them with their finger. Find the empty ones. I hadn't written that. But when I looked closer, I realized my own hand was still pressed against the glass. I had written it without realizing. That night, I went through my phone and found text messages I didn't remember sending, calls to numbers I didn't recognize, and worst of all, notes in my calendar about meetings with people whose names meant nothing to me. I'm living two lives, one that I remember and one that I don't. The more I dug, the more I discovered how much my other self had been doing. I had been tracking patterns in the park, places where hikers reported feeling confused or forgetting things, times when rangers radioed in with coordinates that didn't make sense. All of it pointed to something moving through the park, something invisible, something that fed on memories. And my other self believed that my Alzheimer's diagnosis wasn't real. The memory problems weren't because of a disease in my brain. They were because something was eating pieces of my mind. In the back of the journal, I found a note I'd written. To myself, when you forget about this investigation, that's when you'll know it's getting worse. Read everything again. Trust yourself. The doctors are wrong. Something is taking your memories, and you're the only one who knows it's happening. The next morning I called in sick. I needed to follow the clues my other self had left for me. The map in my box had one spot circled bigger than the others, an old fire lookout tower that closed years ago. It sits on a cliff in a remote part of the park where almost no one goes anymore. The trail to it was officially closed due to landslide damage. I packed my backpack with water, food, my radio, and a flashlight. Just before leaving, I grabbed my journal and tucked it in my pocket. Something told me I might need it. The hike took 3 hours. The trail was overgrown and much harder than I remembered. By the time I reached the tower, the sun was high overhead. The tower looked abandoned, exactly as it should, but something felt off. The padlock on the door was new and shiny, not old and rusted like it should be after years of rain and snow. I pulled out my master key ring. All senior rangers have. Went deep and tried each key until I found one that worked. The lock clicked open. Inside, dust covered everything, except for a path of footprints leading to the stairs. My footprints, from the size and shape of my boots. I climbed to the top level, heart pounding. The lookout room was filled with light from windows on all sides, and it wasn't empty. 4 cots were set up against the walls, and on each cot was a person lying still with open, blank eyes. "Hello?" I said, stepping closer. None of them moved or blinked. They were breathing, but it was like no one was home inside them, just empty shells. I recognized one of them from my journal photos, Ryan Miller. And there was Susan Chen, the volunteer. The other 2 matched pictures from my investigation box. They were alive but completely empty. When I gently lifted Ryan's arm, it stayed where I put it. When I said, "Sit up," Susan did, but her face stayed blank, showing no sign. She understood, or cared. A first aid kit on the floor had been opened. There were empty water bottles and food wrappers in a trash bag. Someone had been caring for these people. Me. I had been caring for them. I found a notebook beside the first aid kit. It was filled with feeding schedules, basic care instructions, and notes about each person's condition, all in my handwriting. Day 47. No change in awareness. Basic functions only. They eat when fed, sleep when it gets dark, respond to simple commands. But there's no one there anymore. I sat down hard on the floor, trying to understand. According to the notebook, I'd been coming here every 3 days to check on them, bring supplies and make sure they were okay, but I had no memory of any of it. I flipped to the back of the journal I'd brought with me. There were pages I hadn't read yet. The creature doesn't kill, I had written. It doesn't need to. It just takes what it wants, consciousness, memories, personality, and leaves the body functioning. I think it keeps them alive as incubators. New thoughts and memories grow back, just enough to harvest again. I looked at the 4 empty people and felt sick. This is what was happening to me, but slower. My memories were being eaten piece by piece. The sun was starting to set. I needed to get back before dark, but as I turned to leave, I saw a laptop tucked under one of the cots. I pulled it out and turned it on. The screen lit up without asking for a password. There was only one file on the desktop, a video labeled Encounter. I clicked play. It was me, sitting in this same tower, facing the camera. The timestamp showed it was from 3 weeks ago. If you're watching this, it means I've forgotten again, my recorded self said. I've seen it. The thing that's taking our memories. It came to me last night. The me on the screen looked exhausted, scared. I glanced over her shoulder before continuing. It doesn't have a real shape. It's like a hole in the world shaped like a person. When it gets close, you can see bits of memory swirling inside it, fragments of people's lives that it's stolen. The video jumped, like it had been paused and restarted. It spoke to me using voices I know, Mom's voice, John's voice before he died, even my own voice. It said it's been feeding on me slowly, that my brain is delicious to it. My recorded self shuddered. It said Alzheimer's isn't real. It's just what happens when your brain tries to protect itself from being eaten. The video jumped again. I made a deal with it, the me on screen whispered. That's why I'm still here, still partly myself. I'm the only one who knows it exists, the only one who can stop it. The video ended there, cutting off suddenly. I sat in the growing darkness, surrounded by 4 empty people, wondering how much of me was already gone. I spent the night in the tower. I couldn't leave those 4 people alone, and I was too scared to hike back in the dark. I kept my flashlight on the whole time, afraid of what might come out of the shadows. As the first light of dawn broke through the windows, I felt something change in the air. The room got colder and my breath came out in little clouds. Then I saw it. In the corner of the room, the air seemed to bend and twist. At first, it looked like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then it took shape, a person-sized hole in the world. Inside the hole, I could see swirling colors and images, like broken pieces of memories floating in darkness. Janet. The voice sounded like my mother's, but with something wrong underneath. You came back. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, but I didn't need to. I can hear your thoughts, it said, now using my dead husband John's voice. I've tasted so many of them already. The shape drifted closer. It wasn't walking, just floating a few inches above the floor. What are you? I finally managed to ask. Hungry, it said simply, this time in my own voice. Always hungry for what humans have inside them. Your memories are delicious, especially yours, Janet. Why mine? The shape swirled, showing me flashes of my own memories inside it. My first day as a ranger, my wedding day, the time I rescued lost children in a snowstorm. You notice things. You remember details. You know this park better than anyone. Your memories taste complex, rich. It paused. But they're getting harder to take. I thought about my Alzheimer's diagnosis. Because I'm sick. The creature made a sound like laughter. You're not sick. Your brain is fighting back, shutting down parts of itself to protect what's left. Humans call it Alzheimer's, but it's really a defense. The only defense you have against my kind. I looked at the 4 empty people on their cots. Did you do this to them? I took everything at once, it said. But they were bland, not like you. The creature drifted closer to me. I can fix your memory problems, Janet. I can give it all back to you. How? I asked, even though I was afraid of the answer. Let me use you to find others, special others with minds like yours. Park rangers, guides, people who know the wilderness. People who really see things. It floated around me in a circle. I'll leave you whole if you help me find them. I thought about what my journal had said, about the deal I'd made. Had I already agreed to this before and then forgotten? No, I said. I won't help you hurt anyone else. The creature stopped moving. Then I'll take what's left of you, bit by bit, until there's nothing but an empty shell. Like them. It gestured toward the 4 bodies. You've been trying, I said, suddenly understanding. But it's not working right. That's why I keep forgetting and remembering. That's why there are 2 versions of me. Your brain fights back. It admitted. It hides pieces of you from me. It's frustrating. I thought about the investigation I'd been conducting and forgetting, about the journals I'd left for myself. Part of me had been fighting this thing all along. Then I realized something that made my heart race. The journal had said Alzheimer's was a defense against this creature. My brain was shutting down to protect itself. What would happen if the creature ate a brain that was already damaged? Would it be like eating spoiled food? I looked at the empty people again. I'd been caring for them, protecting them. And I'd been protecting other rangers too by offering myself instead. The creature drifted even closer. Your time is running out, Janet. Make your choice. I stood up straight and looked directly at the empty space where its face should be. Take me, I said. All of me, right now. The creature paused, surprised. All at once? Yes, but you have to promise to leave everyone else alone. Forever. The swirling colors inside it spun faster, like it was excited. Agreed, it said, using all the voices at once. My mother's, John's, mine, and others I didn't recognize. It moved toward me, the hole in reality opening wider. I closed my eyes and thought about all the people I was saving. The 4 empty ones who might recover, my fellow rangers, future hikers who would never know what almost got them. As the cold darkness touched my face, I felt memories starting to slip away. My first day as a ranger, gone. My wedding day, gone. My mother's face, gone. But deep inside, in a part of my brain I'd hidden even from myself, I knew the truth. My diseased brain was a poison to this thing. The Alzheimer's that was killing me would kill it too. I felt the creature start to struggle, trying to pull away from me. But I reached out and grabbed the edges of the hole, holding it close. No! It screamed with a dozen voices at once. You're wrong. You'll die too. I know, I whispered as more of me disappeared into the swirling void. I forgot why I was standing there. I forgot what I was fighting. I forgot my own name. But I didn't. Let go. The cold got worse, then started to fade. The hole in the air shrank, collapsing in on itself. The swirling memories inside scattered like leaves in the wind. Some returning to the empty people on the cots, some floating away, some coming back to me in broken pieces. Then it was gone, and I collapsed to the floor. 6 months later, a young ranger named Michael finds a journal in a cabin that's been empty since winter. The previous ranger who lived there disappeared after saving 4 missing hikers who were found in an old fire tower. The hikers recovered, but couldn't remember what happened to them. The journal is filled with notes about something that steals memories, about a ranger who fought it and won but lost herself in the process. The last entry reads, "If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. Or maybe I'm still here, but not really me anymore. Check the care facility in town. There's a woman there who doesn't remember being a ranger or saving lives or fighting monsters. But sometimes, when the nurses take her outside on sunny days, She looks up at the mountains and smiles like she remembers something important. Michael closes the journal and rubs his temple. He's been having headaches lately and trouble remembering simple things. And sometimes, when he's on patrol, he feels like something is watching him from the shadows.